everyone's had a remarkable day so far and everyone's enjoying our little Thursday and having a great time. Hello, Ben. Uh, Anyways, hi guys. My name is Safa. I am a part of the team of GUESThouse and I am your host slash moderator here today. Yeah, I just like talking a lot. So let's get started. Welcome everybody to GUESThouse. Before I start, I do ask that everybody to please check to see if you are muted, speakers as well. And then when the speakers, it's your turn to start, you would just go ahead and unmute yourself. Everybody else, unmute yourself. When we start, mute yourself. And then at the top right corner, you should see that there's a grid view / speaker view. I hope everyone can click the speaker view just so you can only see me and just see whoever is just speaking instead of just seeing grid. It's just more like a hello, hey, what's up? Yeah, so just right above here, you should see on the right hand side. I don't know if I'm mirrored for you guys. You guys should see a grid view / speaker view. Just click it so you can switch to speaker view and you should see me. Anyways, as we start. Okay, welcome people to GUESThouse. Wishing everybody has been in good health and doing well all over. For today, think about all that you are instead of what you are not. To show up imperfectly, but open to change is better than not showing up at all. And look at all of you here. You're here, which is great. Thanks for positively influencing and really engaging in your learning. Our discussion today will be from 7 p.m. or 7:10 to 9:30 p.m., but it will possibly extend if needed because this conversation is definitely needed for all of us. A reminder that although these conversations are for educational purposes, I do encourage all of the speakers who are speaking today to speak their complete truths however you see fit. The community requires the honesty to actually change and grow. I just want to thank God and our ancestors for giving us the opportunity to come together and share our stories and experiences with each other. May we learn more about each other and normalize this change along with our opinions and thoughts for the greater good. I would like to also take this moment to thank my Black sisters and brothers for fighting for Black rights all over the world right now. I hope everyone here in this chat is seriously taking the time to further educate themselves on the inequality and aggressions that our society and our government system has out for Black and Black Indigenous people. I would also like to acknowledge and honor the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories and lands of the many First Nations on which we are learning, working, and organizing this talk on today. It's easier to deny Indigenous people of their rights if we historicize their struggles and simply pretend they don't exist here in Canada, but they do. All right, give me one moment while I let other people in. There's so many other people. I'm so excited, yay. Okay, while we continue, I just want to make a quick moment and take a quick moment right now just to say that GUESThouse was created as an initiative to further educate our community and provide resources and give positive purpose to our community and to promote change to our specific communities. Call-out culture is often viewed in a negative light because it promotes toxic activity. However, there are times when it is deemed necessary and for, again, positive purposes, especially for our community, because look at us now, we're all here and there's more people and more males and females here that are present and non-binary other people as well. I personally, as Safa Ali, would like to say that sometimes people only listen when they're put onto the spot because it causes like challenges on people's self-commitment and their self-humility. And if some people feel that in any way they didn't feel love and persistence off of the messages that I put on my personal account or even for GUESThouse, and if you were here for part 1 and me calling out some people, then I do apologize for that. However, as a young adult, it's not my job to change my tone of voice and correct people to make the uncomfortable people comfortable. I had a conversation with Yance about this. It was also a part of the GUESThouse team, and we believe that calling people out is necessary for our community because it creates those conversations instead of just hiding behind the walls. We need to do that in order to educate ourselves, and if it starts with us, then it starts with us. And I'm not apologizing for that. If you feel ways and if the shoe fits, then that is your fault. I do understand that we promoted the guest health talk with less than a week's notice, and many individuals were generally not able to attend, and I do apologize for that. Guest House will 100% work on our time management on our end so that more people can join us next time. However, because of my actions, I also do reflect Guest House, and I will apologize for not pushing the call up for change even harder. We want to be the reason why somebody feels seen, heard, and supported. But with that being said, let's keep it pushing. Guest House cannot thank everyone for supporting this initiative. It was created by friends for friends in our community. I would like to say thank you so much to our speakers tonight, Ming-Bo Lam, Peyton Cram, Vinsia Maharajah, and Kat Cogliandro, for joining us tonight, as we can't thank you all enough, as this is going to be a great conversation. This conversation tonight is part 2 to Guest House's Real Talk. It's truly focused on the survivor's perspective, and it's created, and this whole, the reason why it's called Guest House is because it's, and Guest House and Real Talk, it's because real conversations are being said by real members of our communities who have been creating real change themselves. The speakers will be giving you all the little spices and flavors to their speeches. There will also be a chance for the audience to ask questions at the end of each speaker's talk. But if you have a question that you would like to say, but you don't want to vocalize it yourself, definitely go to the chat and personally message me. You can privately message me in the chat, and I'll ask that question for you. With that being said, let's get started. Woohoo! All right, our first very speaker, we all know her, we appreciate her, and she's been a wonderful being in our community, is Ming-Bo Lam. Ming-Bo Lam graduated with an honors and BFA in theater performance dance from Ryerson University as a valedictorian. Oh, sorry about that. Since graduating, she has crossed the line between classical dance genres and the commercial industry, choreographing for theater productions and independent dance projects and commissions. Select credits include the Much Music Video Awards, the Toronto Raptors Dance Pack, NBA All-Star Weekend 2016, the Umbrella Academy, and Cy Headley, and so much more. I almost read his name as PSY. In addition to teaching drop-in contemporary classes at the Underground Dance Center, Lam teaches for Dancing with Parkinson's Canada and is certified by Dance for PD, which is Parkinson's disease. Currently, Bo works as a freelance dancer, choreographer, adjudicator, and educator. She is also the co-founder of Oasis Studios, and you can learn more about her on her website at www.mingbolam.com. So without further ado, I'm introducing you Ming-Bo Lam. And then again, for everyone who is joining, I do ask that you keep your mics muted and you click and switch from grid view to speaker view. So Ming.
Oh my gosh, Safa, that was like the most, first of all, the intro to this was just everything I needed. I'm a little nervous. Like, I wrote my notes down and I'm just so humbled by how many people are here today. And I mean, like, yeah, your intro is beautiful, and just want to thank you and everyone here, for showing up and being so open, and thank you for inviting me to come chat a little bit. And then thank you for reading my entire bio.
I'm so sorry about that. I was like PSY, and I was like, oh yeah, that's Cy. Anyways. No, I just felt like the introduction was super needed, especially because I've recently realized that people felt pressured to come here, and I don't want them to feel pressured to appear. They should feel like they should be able to come for the purpose of learning for themselves and to learn from you and everybody else who's here, which I think is so important. So yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. And thanks again to everyone for coming through today. I'm going to just kind of do a really short continued introduction on who I am, but I want to focus a little bit more of my chat on, the meat of it all, because I think that's where we're at. And I think in a lot of ways, we're feeling pretty like oversaturated with the material that's pouring out online right now, which in so many ways is wonderful because we have more information and people sharing their experiences and their tools and their feedback, in so many ways. But it's also a lot to process and take in, and the work, that we're facing here, not just in regards to sexual misconduct within our community and beyond, but also in regards to these massive issues of Black Lives Matter and beyond. This is for so many of us, lifetime work. And so, I think what we're noticing right now is more people engaging in these conversations than ever, which is so exciting, because it really does feel like change is happening in small and steady ways. And if we can continue that, forever, then that's goals. So so I'm Bo, Ming-Bo, and I'm half Chinese, which is full Chinese name. And the majority of my dance practice is rooted in classical dance forms, Eurocentric dance forms. And so I grew up, I started my journey on Vancouver Island, and my whole life I wanted to be in that ballet land. And so a lot of my experience in terms of my relationship to my body was shaped in great ways by those goals of mine. I don't have a ballerina body. Very few humans do. And so especially right now, as we work to confront these Eurocentric systems of oppression and specific body types, and then all the other forms of violence that come and interweave within that, it's created some really, really interesting, shifted some really interesting lenses in regards to how I can look at my history in terms of my dance training and my goals, and just kind of where and how I've arrived at now, and then where I want to keep going. So one of the points that GUESThouse presented me to kind of marinate on was my experience as a woman within the entertainment community. And this at first really made me think about my personal journey, which, I was tall for my age growing up, so I was just always kind of bigger. And then with that comes these senses of, I equated bigger as being fat, which I use in quotations because no. And or at least that's not how I, really identified. But in comparison to the standard, this like in many ways unrealistic standard, that's what really shaped my self-perception. And I, carried that with me for probably all of my dancing training. And then, so that was through my early training. And then what it really became a challenge for me was after I graduated from Ryerson University, and I was looking for, I was wanting to do dance work, and I found that, the majority of work available to me was in very sexually provocative areas. So like go-go dancing, or at the time they called it, like, it's kind of evolved into heels now, and at the time I guess what do they call it, like urban burlesque kind of stuff. And it's important that I clarify here that I don't disagree with any of that. I think I love going to heels class, and I think it's really fun, and I think it has purpose, and I think it has a lot of power within that. But at that time in my life, that wasn't something I was comfortable with. And I, all of this comes with my own personal navigations of balancing like my Chinese perceptions and perspectives, and not just Chinese specific, but both of my parents, that's not part of that wasn't part of my family's culture, I guess, if you were to put it into that kind of context. And so when I graduated Ryerson, I was like, how am I going to do this? And even there are moments at Ryerson where, as artists, we're constantly challenging ourselves in terms of the work that we create, what we want to make, and why. And we had a teacher who said to us, like, if you're here to try and make work that your parents will be proud of, like, you should just leave school, because you cannot let that, it's gonna restrict you and contain your work. And that was something that to this day I always find I struggle with, because and I say this because I feel like many of you can maybe relate, when you have one or two immigrant parents, that's not necessarily a privilege that we have in regards to being able to feel like we have the freedom or the choice of just pursuing something for oneself, especially when you're balancing a collectivist culture with an individualist culture. And so being able to navigate that in a way that felt authentic to me was really a really important part of my journey. On top of that, so yeah, this kind of struggle with sexuality and sensuality, and how that plays in as a as a female artist, and in regards in a physical dance form, where I think as movers, we are inherently connected to our bodies in ways that other people aren't, because we're always questioning and moving and connecting to each other. So there's always an element of well, I mean, physicality is the tool that we use to express ourselves, and within that, there's oftentimes this underlying kind of sensuality. And so, how do you work to navigate that in a way that's authentic to you as an individual? And are you able to give yourself permission for that to grow and expand and shift as you continue on your artistic journey? Because, you know, for myself, it did. It grew and shifted with my life experiences, and it grew and shifted with the things that I wanted to focus on and explore as an artist. I think also about this competitive dance community or industry, really, which I did not grow up in, but now I adjudicate. And it was a major learning curve for me to head into these competitions where these children are coming out on stage, and some of them are just in these sequined bikinis, and I just I don't know. It's big questions and big conversations, because I know that there's many families and people who don't have an issue with that. So then I question, why do I have such a big issue with that? But I think what I have an issue is from such a young age, we are very specific in teaching children what girls do and what boys do. And we see that in terms of, you know, Eurocentric dance forms where we have, say ballet, and all the girls are in dresses and all the boys are in pants, and we have the same repetitive kind of hetero relationships displayed on stage. And I'm really curious, and in many ways I'm excited to see, you know, how our world is going to take the conversations that we're having now and work to start addressing this at really a grassroots level, even in these competitive structures where it's all about, like, you know, the toddlers and tiaras kind of vibe. And can we work and to expand these conversations and bring these issues to the forefront within the studio classroom, so that we can shift these narratives, so that we're not telling girls what sexy looks like when they're 3 years old. Because, like, I do believe it's important to explore and connect with and understand what's, you know, sex and your relationship is to it, is in regards to your own life and when you're ready. And that's so personal, you know, that can't be like pushed on someone when they're so young. And even, you know, I had a friend of mine who was teaching a heels class, and she said she had a 9-year-old show up to her class. And I just was like, yes, it's important to learn how to dance in a heel, but, like, if you have, you know, solid training and understand the use of your core and understand the use of your balance, like, that's not going to be the hardest skill for you to pick up when you're at an age where, like, that sense of very explicit sort of movement, you know, is able to be you know, like, delved into in a way that makes sense for that person to question and navigate in a way that makes sense for them. So, sorry, I did write notes for this, and I feel like I'm rambling a little bit. But yeah, I guess my focus is, like, we are teaching children from so young what is appropriate and what is sexy, and how that's defined. And we're doing it in a way that it's from the outside and it's from the male gaze. So how do we, sorry, there's a bee. So how do we, you know, change this? And what do we do differently? And, you know, within the professional work industry, when you look at historical references, and again, I'm coming from my, like, Eurocentric ballet land, but ballet has a history that involves prostitution. You know, when you look at the paintings of Degas, which are, like, up in all, like, the Parisian art galleries, and everyone loves them, and you have your, like, coffee coasters with your Degas ballerinas, like, those were ballerinas who were in the back room, like, waiting for their, like, ballet company donors to, like, come and, like, hang out with them and spend quality time. So, like, these conversations need to be part of arts education. And I think that's another big thing for me, is, like, I really hope that we're able to integrate more history and learning, just ignore the B, history and learning within the context of our steps and our technique. I think it's also really interesting when you start to look at dance as a whole, and we're finally getting away from that thing of ballet is the beginning of all dance, which it is not. And as we continue to, open our eyes to that reality, we're also able to recognize how these cultural dances and social dance histories are so integral to the development of dance as a whole. There's a reason why when I meet most people and I say, oh, and they say, what do you do? And I say, I'm a dancer. And they say, oh, and I say, oh, I'm not a stripper. Like, there's a reason that's the first, kind of affiliation with that word. And like, that needs to change. So how can we, all of these things that we're addressing speak to larger issues of like the role of dance in our culture as North American settlers, and how we can work to change that. And I think in Canada, we have like, this really exciting ability to do that because we have, so many different people and affiliated cultures in this place. And like, when I moved to Toronto, it was the first time I was exposed to like dance hall or soca, and I was like, this is amazing. And so we can keep working to, bring these different dance forms into the collective consciousness of the world, like win-win. Anyways, okay, there's my first ramble. Let me get a little bit more specific here. So, and Safa, just like yell at me if I'm getting close to my time. How have I personally overcome any trauma? And I'm also, again, kind of skipping over for those of you who don't know my story. It's available all over my Instagram. So if you want to do some more learning, you can head there. But I wanted to address like a few things that really helped me. The first was to acknowledge it in the first place, because I definitely spent the first 2 years being like, everything's fine and it's not a big deal. And it's not a big deal that I see this person like want to throw up, or I see this person and I like burst into tears because of that trauma response. So acknowledging it and kind of coming to terms with it and giving it a name. And, trauma might not be the right word that resonates with you, but maybe there's something else you can call it. And know also that, it is inherently personal and your journey is inherently yours. There's no specific set timeline in regards to when you're supposed to acknowledge this or when you're supposed to come to terms with it or hit a certain milestone. Everyone's journey is different. There's similarities and different kind of ups and downs, but your journey and your story is your own. And it's really important to recognize and give yourself permission to move through that healing journey in ways that make sense for you and where you're at and what your life is. Being in survival mode is really important. And right now, with everything going on in the world, this might not be the time for you and your mental state to be able to process through all of this trauma. So just, the first step, acknowledge. The other thing that helped me was to question, to question and research. I'm like a little bit of a nerd, so I really like reading. And so something that was really helpful for me was reading a couple books that I found great. I mean, anything by Brene Brown, because I just love her. But a really interesting book was the Body Keeps Score. The Body Keeps the Score by Dr. Bessel van der Kolk. And he's like, it, especially as dancers, because the work that we do is so physical and we're so deeply in tune with our bodies, it like blew my mind. And one of the biggest responses I had in terms of like the stress of my experience was I got really sick, and I basically couldn't eat anything or keep any food in my system for like 2-3 years. And I was so confused because I was like, hey, I cut out dairy and gluten and I like did all these different things. And I thought it was anxiety, but in hindsight, I'm quite sure that it was my body's response to carrying so much stress and trauma for so long and not being able to process it in a way that was fully, releasing it from my body. So question what you're feeling, question, the experience of what happened, and try and do your research. And that looks in, like different things for different people. It might mean talking to fellow survivors. It might mean, working with a therapist, which therapy, yay, go to therapy, but find a really good therapist, someone who you really connect with. Not all therapists are the same. And writing is huge for me. I journal a lot, especially when I'm struggling, and it's really helpful because when I'm not doing well, I don't sleep. And so journaling allows me to kind of get the stuff in my head out onto paper where I can really visualize it. It also allows me to see patterns. So when I was going through a really rough time once, I was journaling like almost daily. And a year later, I looked back and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm dealing with the exact same issue over this entire year. Nothing's changed. So now I know that like what I'm doing isn't enough. I need a big change to shake this up because, you know, it's been consistent for this amount of time and I have proof. So writing's been really instrumental in me in terms of sorting through what I'm doing and what I'm thinking and how I'm feeling. So acknowledge, question, and write. And then last but not least, these two kind of play into each other. The first one is to give voice to shame, because I think a lot of times when we are speaking about sexual assault specifically, you know, shame is a huge factor in that. It shouldn't be, and hopefully one day it won't be, but right now it is. And so, you know, if you are experiencing shame, the best way to counter that is to give it, to name it and call it out loud. And you can do that, you know, in the privacy and confidentiality of a therapist relationship. You can do that with trusted and safe and supportive friends. You can do that in your journal, you know, give it a voice, say it out loud. And you'll find that, you know, as soon as you put it out there, it's like allergic to the air. It'll like fizzle up. And the more that you do that, the more it breaks down. Lastly, own your story. So again, similar to what I said before, your story is yours alone. And you are the only person who gets to make the choice about if or when or how you share that story. You may not need or want to, and that's okay. I think there's a lot of pressure, and I recognize it and appreciate and understand that pressure of like, I need to say something because otherwise it's my fault that it will keep going. No, it is the perpetrator's fault that this continues. It is on that person. It is not on you. And I think that's really important to remember, because yes, while we have the power to affect change, your mental health and your safety come first. And that is so essential to put as the top priority. I recognize that, you know, there's power in coming forward and there's power in coming together, but it has to be right for you, because you know, if you come forward in a way that doesn't feel authentic and that opens you up to more pain or more trauma before you're ready, or if it doesn't feel right, you know, like, that you don't need that. You've been through so much. So trust that your story is yours, and trust that you alone are, you know, the hero in that story, and you get to choose where it goes and how it ends and what happens. So acknowledge what has happened, question it, research it, write about it, give voice to shame, and own your story. Allow yourself to make your choices for yourself. Oh, I kind of covered that one too. Sorry, I'm just referencing my notes. And then as people who are responding to and or, you know, listening and want to support, what can you do? Again, I do have some resources on my blog, so there's a link in my Instagram. But I think the most important thing is to be able to listen to understand. Don't try not to listen to respond, because I think, you know, there's a number of different like kind of go-to ways that we want to respond. We want to respond with a solution, because it's often someone we care about who's coming to us in pain, and our go-to instinct is like, let me help, let me at them, like, you know, let me fix this. But you know, and yes, there's time for action, but the first step is just holding that space, making sure whoever is sharing their story with you feels fully seen, heard, and understood. Maybe that means just, you know, wow, that's a lot. Do you want to tell me more? Or how did that feel? Or when you said this, what does that mean? Maybe it means, you know, just shifting and holding that conversation so that you're able to take some of that weight and hold it for them and really understand. Because I think also, you know, in that realm of go-to responses. We want to fix things. We want to take control. We want to find solutions. We also want to comfort. We want to say, it's okay, don't worry, like, let it go. Or, and these things have good intentions, but it's really important that, if you err too far on that line, you could risk shutting them down or risk them not feeling heard. And, that's really dangerous waters to be in, because the courage that it takes for someone to share that story and share what happened to them, so often what they're looking for is reassurance and just, recognition of what they've been through and what they've experienced. So listen to understand, not to respond, and trust that there's no rush. Because I think that's the other thing, is we have like that knee-jerk kind of emotional reaction, which is normal and good and means you care about that person. But it also means that we really need to breathe deeply into that space and allow that person that survivor, the person who's sharing their story, allow them to guide that process forward. It's it just, as much as we want to be the rescuer or the person, it's up to them to let us know what they need. We can always check in and we can always ask, but those boundaries that they set are so essential. So listen to understand and listen to allow them to guide you forward together. What can we do to support more female leaders? We can amplify their voices. We can, support them when you find out events are happening. You can show up. I think that's really like the biggest thing. Show up for your people and amplify them. So, all the things that we're seeing on social media, there's a lot of really positive stuff happening in terms of people sharing and listening and commenting and, all these things. And I know there's big conversations happening also about, performative allyship and where's the action. And I think it's important that, obviously, within a limit, but recognizing that there's a starting point. And if someone's brand new to all of this, which I know for me, I'm like, how can someone be brand new to this? Like, how old were you the first time someone like catcalled you? Or how old were you the first time someone commented on your body where it had nothing to do with them? For, a lot of us, it's been a part of your life for almost forever. In, similar ways to race, like can be a part of your life forever. And so it's really hard, and it's so frustrating to try and hold space for someone who is new. And so I guess something I'm trying to do myself is to like breathe deeply and try to encourage and shift, people into getting deeper into these things. Yeah. And trusting that there's like steps. So yeah, amplifying is a good place to start. And then there's many places we can go from there. Lastly, I wanted to touch on that cancel culture versus accountability or consequence culture. And that's a hard one for me because I don't like the concept of cancel culture, but I strongly believe in the value and importance of accountability and consequences. And when I first heard, there was a podcast, and I can't remember what it's called, but it was on Canada Land. So if you search them, you can probably find it. But it was Desmond Cole, and he talked about, I think that's the first time I heard that phrase, consequence culture, and I was like, oh, that makes sense to me. Because when I hear cancel culture, for me personally, I think that it's, squished and put away. And then I'm like, how does anyone benefit from that? Because if, let me speak to the Me Too movement. We've got these men in power. They do really shitty things. We cancel them and they're gone. But the issue's still there, and the power structures are still there, and their thinking still hasn't changed. So how, and I know it sucks because it's way more work and it's really annoying, but if we can, find a way to bring consequences so that people are held accountable, so that they're facing the realities of, the realities of their behavior, hopefully then we're able to create actual lasting positive change. And I think that's that's our goal ultimately, is to shift the way people think and the way in which they move through the world. And if we just squish them and toss them out, we're just going to keep scrambling to like catch all these people. But the issue isn't the actual person so much as it's the system and the way of thinking and the group of beliefs, right? And so shit ton of work, but I think worth it to a degree. I will throw in that, like, from my own personal experience with an extraordinarily challenging human, sometimes people don't get it. And in that case, we can cancel them. But I do think it's worth the effort of trying to engage and hold accountable, because if we are able to shift their thinking, and if they are then able to go back to their groups of people and spread that thinking and spread those shifts, it's going to be ultimately, more positive for everybody. So that's my highly optimistic perspective. But yeah, consequences over canceling, I suppose, is where I'm at. But at the same time, there are still boundaries there, and there's still times where, like, it's just a hard no, and I think that's fair. So yeah. Yeah, I do have a couple more little notes, but I just want to, I guess, Safa, you'll let me know if I'm like talking way too long. It's okay. Okay. So I just wanted to draw your attention to that Audre Lorde quote. And in terms of the master's tools will never dismantle the master's house. And, I think that's something that we keep coming back to. And in regards to all these big movements that are happening in our world right now, and I think a big piece of that is the role of shame. And obviously I'm biased because I'm such a huge fan of Brené Brown, and so that's like all of her teachings, and so I do admit bias there, but like I do think, again, shame. So just as a quick quote, if you aren't a super Brené Brown fan like me, so there's a big difference between shame and guilt. So, and any therapist you ever see will tell you this, because every single one I've seen has been like, Bo, do you feel ashamed or do you feel guilty? And I'm like, oh. So shame is the belief that there's something wrong with you, and guilt is the belief that there's something wrong with your behavior or actions. And this is a really important separation to make when in all sorts of ways. So if you look at it from the perspective of like a parent to a child, it's like teaching a child, if you teach through shame, if you parent with shame, it's feelings like you are stupid, you are messy, and there's like, they internalize that as, I am stupid, I am wrong, I am messy, as opposed to, you did a mistake, you made a mistake and that was careless, or you made a big mess, as opposed to an action. So it's the difference between an action and like a character trait. And that's huge, because if you are being shamed and you believe that you are stupid, there's no hope. You internalize that and you're like, okay, well, I'm stupid, so there's nothing I can do. Guess I'm just going to be stupid for the rest of my life. I hate that word also. But if instead we teach, hey, this action that you did caused pain. Why is this an issue? How can we do this differently? Look, you're in control of your actions and your behavior. You feel big feelings. You choose how you respond to them. You choose how you express them. Then we have potential for anything, because then we have the ability to separate our actions from who we are. And then we can make change. But if it's intrinsically who we are and who we believe ourselves to be, then change isn't a possibility and it's not a choice. So that's a really big thing I think that's important for us to hold on to. And yeah. So try and check out Brené Brown. I've kind of pulled some links, so I'll send them to Safa and maybe she can include them in the thingy. Yeah. And then just as one more, because, I think the biggest thing is like, the biggest thing I grapple with, and I do this, you know, as a human who exists in the world of you know, I am Chinese and I am white. I am artist and I am business. And so I live in this world of and so because of that, I'm very aware of, you know, the grayness of everything and the ability to hold, you know, one and another at the same time. And so while I say, you know, while I quote Audre Lorde and say the master's tools will never dismantle the master's house, and while I quote the brilliant Brene and I say, you know, shame shouldn't be used as a tool to achieve these goals, at the same time, when we're looking at marginalized people who've experienced such extensive trauma and discrimination and injustice, we have to create room and space for these feelings to be expressed. And when we're dealing with such big, important, you know, feelings and responses, and people who've held so much pain for so long, you know, we have to create room for these things to be voiced. And for us, we, you know, are responsible for listening in ways that we hear the truth, you know, as opposed to what we become initially defensive to. And I know that's really hard, and I know it's hard for me too. I, you know, see things on social media, and I hear, you know, rage and pain, and I think, oh, like, you know, you want to like close up against it, but you have to like breathe into it and say, okay, what is this person really saying, and how can I help? You know, and sometimes we help by listening and holding, and sometimes we help by, you know, taking action. And so, yeah, there's a lot of grief in the world right now, and that's a lot, and it's heavy to hold. But I think it's our responsibility as humans to help, and to trust that, like, you know, grief is a process, and we can hold a lot of pain. We're capable of that, and then we can also create a lot of change. So yeah, I think that's where I'll finish my ramble, and I hope some of those things made sense. And thank you for listening.
Thank you so very much for your talk. Oh my God, you're so cute. Thank you so much. It was super insightful, and like it was great to hear that you touched upon the points that we had sent to you, and just because those are very valid to our conversation here. I do have a few questions that I would like to ask you, and then I would like to open it up to the participants here if anybody has any questions that they would like to ask Ming herself. All right, so you touched upon consequence culture, which is very valid, and somebody here asked, how do we apply consequences or educate without being like a bigot ourselves? Because they see a lot of people trying to spread awareness and educate, but they silence others who might not quite know better or have a difference of opinion. So how do you like deal with that, or how do we apply consequences to?
Yeah, great question.
Right.
I know, right? That's a great question. I'll obviously give, you know, my opinion, but know that it's also just my opinion. So please don't, you know, take anything as the be all end all. But I think a big part of that is questioning intention. And it's, you know, I think it's very much on a case by case basis, because let's see if I can think of an example. I have a friend who's really close to me, and they're in their late 70s, and they're white, and they grew up in Canada. And one time they made a comment, and it was just like, they're like, I know them. They're like super liberal, like this same person. When we were walking, and we saw a transgender woman, and this person grabbed my arm and said, "Isn't that beautiful? Of course gender's on a spectrum. How did it take us so long to figure this out?" Like, this is that person's perspective. They're so beautifully, you know, engaged in what's happening and learning with it and moving with it. And the same person made a comment one day, and it was just off like the tip of their tongue, and they said, "Oh, bless their cotton picking heart." And I was like, you can't say that. I was like, who do you think picked the cotton? Like, that's not okay. And they were like, oh my God, of course, I never thought about it. They felt terrible, right? Because it's like this product of a time that's, just there, right? And so, but guess what? I said, whoa, you can't say that. And they said, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Never said it again. You know what I mean? So I think I use that example because intention has a role, and you and if hopefully if you know the person, you can kind of gauge that intention and say, and then choose how you move forward in that conversation. mm, and I think it's important to be mindful that, you know I believe, and obviously, again, within context, we have to be allowed to make mistakes. I look at my own life, and I look at how I grew up in a town where I could count on one hand how many Black people I'd ever seen in my life until I was like 15, and then I learned from there, and like definitely messed up along the way for sure. And I'm really grateful that I had the ability, and that I was, so blessed to have such a, move to Toronto and like meet so many wonderful people, and go to a school where we were facing these questions and having these conversations so much. That my world perspective has changed, and my own eyes have opened up in big ways. So yeah, I think it's really personal. I think it comes down to intention, and it comes down to context, and what consequence you believe is appropriate. And I think when I think of that, I think also about, the Me Too movement. When we look at, again, consequences, like the consequence for sexual assault should be different from, say, inappropriate text messages, right? So there's a spectrum, and as misconduct and violence exists on a spectrum, the consequences should reflect that. So I guess that's my answer, is seeing if we can match, the spectrum in terms of both the action and the consequence. And then also, again, knowledge, right? I mean, if someone literally has never, if something has never occurred to someone, if something's brand new, they should have a little bit of leeway, again, within context. But then if someone has been told and told, and or in this year where we're learning so much, where so much information is available to us, that kind of wiggle room shrinks a bit, I think, because I think it's reasonable to expect that people have more knowledge than they did even 5 years ago,
Yeah.
and if not, like, what are they reading?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got one more question. Well, thank you for that. I don't know why I'm jumping straight to it, but thank you so much for explaining it. Just hearing your experience, I was like, oh, whoa, okay. Crazy. But yeah, all right. So I have one more question before I open it up to the audience, or I feel a few more people are starting to come in. But I believe people are more focused on like the consequence culture, which is like nice to know because they're learning something. But so this was asked, given that a perpetrator should be held accountable and face consequences, how can that be the case if many people are being accused without them even knowing? So for example, a list is being passed around the community that is supposed to hold people accountable for their actions, both sexual assault and allegations of just harassment. This list is being passed around behind the backs of the accused. How do we hold people accountable if they're unaware of their actions and that they've hurt people? Which is, I think, is a phenomenal question.
Amazing question. Yeah. I think, I mean, I don't know if I have a total answer for that. I mean, I can say, in regards to a few of the individuals, I'm aware of the list. A few of those individuals are aware. There's one on that list who has faced a lawsuit in a workplace situation, and is still working. And there's another who is aware because because they've lost work, directly because of what's come forward. So although it hasn't come forward publicly, there have been consequences in terms of lost work or lost funding. But I also recognize that, and I know from speaking from myself, that's not enough, because there's still a lack of accountability or understanding, or And that's where processes such as like restorative and transformative justice can be really powerful. So that's something that I'm still researching on and looking into. But if anyone else in the dance community is interested in learning more about that stuff, I'm currently working to put together a document in collaboration with another dance artist to just kind of track who's doing what within this in the scope of the community, and then working to address the holes that exist there. And one of those things that's happening is the Generator Toronto has a transformative justice project that they're working on. And so if you just search Generator TO, you'll get linked to their website. And so that's a really good option right now that allows you to move through a sense of work through a justice process without involving the legal system. And so that way you're able to find, basically kind of work together to define for yourself what accountability would look or feel like for you, and then work through it together. So that's a very vague, Generator, TOR. Sorry, thanks. But yeah, it's a very like vague, and it's can be quite like personal in terms of like how you want to structure that and who you want to involve or whatever. So definitely worth looking into. And then so I guess transformative and restorative justice processes are a really good option, but I hear you, like it's also really hard because I think as a community, we really want to just know the names of people so we can just like not work with them. But then I guess I also question, then does that, then become cancel culture? Because then they're just not we're just like kind of banishing them without giving them opportunity to change or improve or, own their actions. So great question. Sorry, that wasn't really an answer.
No, it's okay. And I think you touched on like how banishing and public shame might not be like the answer, but I think that like if they decide to quote unquote disappear from the community without taking accountability, then banishing is a form also of consequence culture, because the confidence is for that. And that kind of happened with like a studio that I'm sure we're all aware of.
We're all
That we're all aware of. And for those outside of Canada, sorry. But I definitely think like, personally for me, I feel like I can also add to saying like, asking for accountability from them. If you don't feel comfortable to get somebody else, there's so many resources of how you can kind of go about it by either not per se asking your friends, because I feel like asking friends might be like a little bit too much into like getting into that. But if you're comfortable asking certain people or prominent like leaders that you think are like leaders in your eyes, come to me. I have no problem doing no remorse and like asking for accountability, man. But there's that as well, asking for accountability, and if they don't, then try going around to see anybody else who's closer to them to try to find that. And I know that's not enough, but I feel like just figuring out a way to kind of get in their heads like, hey, you did this, you've also hurt this and this, and you've also hurt me, would also like kind of help. But again, like that's just a suggestion as well. But publicly shaming and banishing is definitely a form of consequence that they deserve. Before Ming leaves, I'm gonna open up the floor to anybody that wants to ask a question to her. You can turn on your video, unmute. Does anybody have a question for Ming about?
I was also just going to say real quick, sorry, and then you can ask your question. But I was also just going to say like that, what you just said reminded me also that like, I think we're so quick to assume that like, these perpetrators are being attacked, by survivors or victims or, like the people that they've hurt. And I think we're very quick. And I think that, part of that is that like, innocent until proven guilty sort of thing. We want to give people the benefit of the doubt. We want people, like no one wants people to do bad things. We all want people to make good choices. But, people have the responsibility and the ability, and they make the choice in terms of how they respond. So I think it's important that, I think that's something I try to remind myself is that like, when I struggled for years coming forward with my story, I was like, well, I don't want to like hurt him. But then it's like, okay, but like he's hurt a lot of people. And he has the choice in terms of how he handles this. He has every ability to say, wow, Bo came forward with this story and like that's terrible. I can't believe I did that. That was not my intention. Let me do some work and apologize and own my actions and talk to her and see how I can, change my things moving forward. Like, people have that ability to say, wow, I fucked up in a really big way and hurt a lot of people. I'm going to change. That's really all people want to know. So that's something that always like gets under my skin when people like put out these apologies or lack of, and it's like, if you just owned your behavior, like, wouldn't that just be easier?
Yeah, but clearly that's not the answer what's happening.
Clearly.
Okay, well, thank you so much for your wisdom and magical words. I really appreciate you, and thank you for giving us your time and energy and investing into this conversation. Super insightful and super thankful. Real quick before you leave, do you want to like share your socials and such for those that might be listening to this recording in audio version and such? Just so everyone know, this will be recorded. I've answered this so many times. I'm not answering it no more. This will be recorded. It will be posted on YouTube at GUESThouse's YouTube channel. There's social media, and I posted and said so many things about that it's it. It's recorded. No excuses. Anyways, before you go, any social medias that you want to share quickly? We will also be posting your social medias as well, but go ahead.
You're so sweet. Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram at love.mingbo. So love.mingbo. And yeah, all my links and stuff are in there. I also just wanted to apologize because I'm back home here in beautiful Gabriola Island, and I've got to dip out because it's my sister's last day. But I just want to assure you all that I'm so very grateful for all of you and your time and your wisdom. And I'm going to watch this amazing recording on YouTube, which is recorded and will be on YouTube and recorded on YouTube. So thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Tell your sister we say, oh, hello.
Oh, I
will. Amazing. Let's move on. Great. Amazing, everyone. That was great. Oh my God. All right. For our second speaker, oh, this is going to be my favorite. We have Peyton Cram. Peyton Cram is a licensed professional counselor, has a master's of education in science, is a registered expressive artist therapist with the pronouns they, them, theirs, specialized in trauma and addiction, exploring stories and how it is we tell our own stories, whether it be through verbal expression, movement, written word, paint, collage, music, etc., all the arts. Stories are deeply ingrained in our identities and our bodies. The way in which we tell our stories can be profound impact on our growth and healing. Peyton is trained in eye movement desensitization with reprocessing EMDR, which is expressive art therapy, a dancing mindfulness affiliate and trainer, Reiki level 2, and is engaged in a 300-hour mind-body therapy certification course. Oh my friggin' goodness. This is why I'm so like, whoa. Peyton received her Master's of Science in Education in Clinical Mental Health Counseling at Youngstown State University. Peyton currently provides dancing mindfulness training, expressive arts supervision, and sees clients through change alongside their co-owner, and sees clients through Seed Change. Oh, so sorry about that. Alongside the co-owner Ramona Scrico, and shares her passion for painting through painting. I do apologize for butchering any of that, but without further ado, let's welcome Peyton. And I believe everyone should pay attention to her.
Hello. Can you guys hear me?
Yep, you're good.
Hello. I'll just say that I'm Peyton, pronouns are they, them, theirs. I saw, I'm given like half an hour and I'm just like, oh man, this is stuff I can talk on for hours, in which I do all day, every day. And it's a passion of mine. And that's why I just keep adding letters after my name, because it's just something that interests me. However, that comes from my backstory as a survivor of childhood sexual abuse myself. So I keep studying this stuff as to unravel my story and to share my healing journey and how I healed with my clients and the people around me. Because I know no one makes it through childhood without trauma, at minimum attentional trauma, or through adulthood, through watching the news, or this year through going through a pandemic. So I had several kind of notes I want to touch on. So I'm going to do my best to try to touch on everything so we can get a nice deep understanding of how trauma impacts the body and how it actually alters the shape of our brain. So we have actually multiple different brains that reside within our body, not just this one big mass inside our skull like we think it is. For all intents and purposes at this moment, we have 3 main levels that reside in our skull. And then we have one in our gut and we have one in our heart. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of Dan Siegel, but he did this wonderful hand model that I'm going to share with you guys if you want to follow along. That actually represents the brain really well for today. So we got the brainstem, we got the midbrain, so the limbic system, and the neocortex. These are all separate brains and really important for our survival and who we are as people on this planet. The brainstem, located right here, is actually everything we have in common with a reptile. It's one of the first structures in the brain to develop, and it's one of the first structures that have actually evolved over time. Its main job is to keep us alive. It takes care of our organs. It takes care of our body. It does it outside of our awareness. It focuses on things in this present moment. It also takes care of our freeze response, our very primitive survival instinct. We have no control over it. We know it as dissociation, and we know it as shock. So I don't know if you guys have ever heard, I think we've all heard it at some point in time, like I froze and I didn't know what to do. I couldn't do anything. And then we experienced this sense of shame over not being able to move or do anything. Just so you know, it resides in the brainstem, which we have no control over. Then we have this limbic system, in our midbrain, and our midbrain takes care of so much. It's like filtering through all the information in our environment. So like that noise or a fan or the AC or your dog's howling, and my dogs might howl at some point, I do apologize, I have a beagle. That's filtering through everything in our environment that we don't necessarily pay attention to. And it's also filtering through everything that happens inside of us. And it's doing it outside of our awareness. So we're thinking taste, touch, sound, we're thinking heart rate, stomach, all this type of stuff. Because it's assessing for threats. You see, our brain cannot tell the difference between a tiger and a deadline. A tiger and I don't know how to talk to this person. A tiger and I had to speak up for myself because I was just hurt. It's all the same thing. But it's also working in the present moment because it works outside of our level of awareness. What we deem to be the most important aspect of being a human is our conscious thought is the last thing to occur with our neocortex. Conscious thought is the slowest thing to occur in our bodies. Our neocortex is also where verbal language occurs. So if you're thinking, our conscious thought is the last thing to occur, so is verbal language. Our emotions reside in the midbrain. Our bodies reside in the brainstem. So we're functioning body and emotions first. This all occurs within 1/16 of a millisecond. Well, conscious thought, being able to say things like, oh, fuck, occurs at 22 milliseconds, which is exceptionally slow. So while our bodies are going, hey, something's wrong, our conscious thought's still going, that's a shiny object over there. That can be best be said. I don't know if you guys have ever experienced, but you're having a good time or a decent time. You're enjoying yourself or you're relaxed, and next thing you know, oh man, I'm really anxious right now. I have no idea what's going on. It's because your thinking brain is just on a lag. It's stuck. This is important to understand because when it comes to things like sexual assault and survival, our midbrain takes over. It's this neat little technique that developed with our ancestors when they're facing saber-toothed tigers. Because when we're, as ancestors were facing saber-toothed tigers, they didn't need to know what 2 + 2 equaled. They didn't need to know how to speak to the saber-toothed tiger. They didn't need to know how to connect to the person next to them. They had to get up and go. They had to flight or fight. So when we're talking sexual assault and saber-toothed tigers, our midbrain, our emotional brain, our fight or flight response, our freeze response, they shut off our thinking brain. I don't know if you guys have ever noticed, if you've been so anxious you had no words, or so angry you had no words. It's because it actually shuts that off. We get stuck in this emotional section, and that's really important because this emotional section has no storage for memories. So when it comes to sexual assault, it doesn't actually give back that power, not fully. It holds on to that trauma, which, you know, trauma can be absolutely anything. It's anything that supersedes our ability to cope. So it could be divorce, it could be moving, it could be losing a friend in death, it could be a car accident, child physical abuse, neglect, and sexual assault. So it doesn't fully give it back. And with it holding on to it, it turns into this festered emotional wound. And with it stuck there, the emotional brain and the brainstem are looking at this event as if it's still occurring to this day. Even if it happened a couple of years ago, 20 years ago, 10 years ago, it doesn't matter because it's stuck here. It's seeing this as, oh my God, we have to survive. Oh my God, we have to survive. Oh my God, we have to survive every day because this isn't on. The thing with things like sexual assault and from the views of a survivor, when it's stuck here, Ming had brought it up so well, it gets shame. And shame is that sense of, I am wrong. As a human being, as a person, I am wrong. Something's wrong with me. Aside from guilt is, I did something wrong. Shame is to the core, I am broken. That shame is kind of like an infection in that wound. So it gets stuck with it. And that part of the brain actually starts storing that in the body because it doesn't know what to do with it. It gets stored like these glass shards that poke and prod all the time. You can tell someone's trauma when you're looking at their bodies. I mean, I do this all the time in my work. If someone's speaking really, really quickly, I know they're not in their body because normal conversational speech patterns, you know, kind of connected in our bodies, we're checking in, but then also really paying attention and connecting to the person next to us. The quicker somebody speaks, the less in the body they are. The quicker somebody speaks, the more trauma they have because the body is uncomfortable. So when you're looking at things like sexual assault and trauma, it's uncomfortable. The body is no longer safe because someone told us it was not safe because that safety was taken. So that shame is telling us that you are not safe. You have no power to who you are. So the quicker they speak. It also gets stored in the body through different muscle tension. You can see how it's held. More anxious people. Shoulders are more piked towards the ears. You can tell in the difficulty and the uncomfortableness when it comes to moving the hips, or vice versa. Because if you're not in the body, you're either stiff as a board, or you're just loose because you're not there, you're not inhabiting here, you're stuck up here because this isn't safe. So what I do in my day-to-day work, and even for myself in my own personal healing, I try to give a voice to the body, to that experience, because again, we don't have access. That trauma does not have access to words. We can think it through, but it's not going to go anywhere because there are more messages from the body to the brain than from the brain to the body. So working with just the dirt road's not going to get you anywhere. You got to work with the body. As in my bio, I'm trained in this thing called dancing mindfulness, and I'm also trained in expressive arts. And what those two modalities do is help make body whole. It gives best way to put that, it gives a voice to that experience. So there's something completely different from actually saying your story than it is to give it an image. Because, you know, an image speaks louder than words. And I actually wanted to, if you all don't mind, to use some of my own personal paintings to kind of drive that point home, that working with a body and working through art is so much more powerful than it is to use words, because you're giving your emotional brain, you're giving your brainstem, so your body, a way to actually speak. Because when you're traumatized, when I was traumatized, when we all get traumatized, we get stuck in that place because that wound is trapped in that time. It doesn't know any difference. So you could be like 50 years old, but if you're traumatized when you're 20, that wound, when it's poked and prodded, you're 20. It doesn't matter. It's still there and it needs healed. And that's going to invade every aspect of anybody's life, because again, when you're in survival, you don't need to know what 2 + 2 equals. When you're in survival, you don't need to connect to the person next to you. And it's all about learning how to connect, because trauma and sexual assault shifts and drags your focus to it. You can't focus on anything else, nor the beauty that's in day-to-day life. So essentially, healing becomes a sense of coming back to life, from freeze, from anxiety, which are really uncomfortable states to be in all the time, because we're not meant to be anxious all the time. That's meant to be a moment facing a tiger, not an everyday experience. When it becomes an everyday experience, our bodies can't handle it anymore. We shut down. So it's going to look like anxiety, and then all of a sudden, I'm depressed and on the couch and can't get up. I'm depressed and in bed and I can't get up. I don't have enough energy to shower, to, I'm going to deep clean my house. I'm going to pump out all these papers in like 24 hours. Watch me. A lot of people think, oh my God, I'm bipolar, and it's not. That's called being triggered. That's in the survival cycle. Y'all can let me know if I'm making sense or not, because I can talk about this and ramble all I want.
You are amazing. You're doing so great.
Track of time, so just let me know. So if you guys don't mind, I am going to start off with one of my very first paintings when I started my healing journey, and center a lot of conversation on how that process is like. I'm sorry, those are my dogs. And what that's like, and how I share this with everybody else. So I do these, you can see it on my own personal website, which is paypainting.com. But then there's my private practice, which is seechangecounseling.com, which will be posted. But I call them like non-people. And I was so disconnected from my own body that I couldn't accept that these images, I call them blown up bubble letter people, were me. That's just how disconnected from body is. And that's how disconnected someone from sexual assault can be from their own body, because body's not safe. Body betrayed me. Body got damaged. In a lot of societies, when things are broken, we replace them. You can't replace your own body. So this was my first painting. This is my first non-person. And I started using my hands. So you're not gonna be able to really see the texture in this one. But when I first did this, I had no idea what was going on. But obviously there was something going on for me. And this is how it is for a lot of my clients and a lot of people when I introduce artwork with them. Next thing you know, they're digging their hands into paint and it's on canvas. And next thing you know, they get something like this, or they get something else, and they're using a lot of red, or they're using a lot of black, or they're using their fingers and clawing into the paint. And they step back, and there's always this moment of just, holy shit, written on faces, because they didn't know all of that was stuck and trapped inside of them. With sexual assault and sexual abuse, there will always be a deep rage, a deep, righteous rage over what has occurred, because your power was taken away, home was taken away, stripped against permission. So there's always that rage that always initially comes out in the paintings, that comes out in the movements. When it comes to movement, I have to teach a lot of my clients how to move their hips. I have to teach them how to drop their shoulders. I have to teach them how to straighten their spine. All these simple movements that we take for granted every single day. We take for granted our bodies a lot every single day. We usually sit like this, and we wonder why we're depressed. Or we wonder why we have a hard time keeping in touch with who we are. Just lengthen your spine. Listen to your body. That's what dancing mindfulness, I know there's a lot of professionals on here, dancers on here, but dancing mindfulness is the modality that looks into using your own body's healing resources to tell you what it needs. So if you're sitting like this and your spine's aching, lengthen it. You'd be surprised on how it impacts your attitude. Because remember, there are more messages from the body to your brain. Your body to your brain is the superhighway. You can use positive affirmations. Those are great because you do need to sort out your thoughts. But use your body. Your body's going to tell you a lot. Because when you're not working on stuff, when you're stuck with this, I can tell you would not be a healthy person if I was stuck here. That stuff gets trapped in the body, and it will form into things like cysts. It will form into things like cancer, constipation, chronic diarrhea, diabetes, heart disease, lung disease, brittle bones, autoimmune disorders. Autoimmune disorders are directly related to trauma. They can always find patient 0 in a family history. And every time that person has trauma, anyone else down in the family history who has the autoimmune has trauma. It is always directed, correlated to trauma, because it's almost like that shame being internalized on a cellular level. Shame's toxic. Shame is not natural. We're given shame. We're taught shame. Guilt is fine because, it lets us know what we're doing right or wrong. So I don't know if you guys have ever heard of adverse childhood experiences. They're called ACEs, ACE scores. And Kaiser Permanente, this corporation, they did this massive study after this doctor stumbled upon, like you studying obesity and weight loss and how to maintain weight loss. And he's asking one of his patients a question because after the trial ended, pretty much 90% of the people gained the weight back. He was asking questions and he messed up on one of his questions, and he asked, not how old were you when you had your first sexual experience, it was how much did you weigh during your first sexual experience? He just messed up. But the response was 45 pounds. A child. So Kaiser Permanente took that as a sign of, oh crap, we have a lot of traumatized people. So they did this study and they found that the majority of people in a lifetime experiences some sort of trauma. They did like a 10-point questionnaire. And the more points you had, the more at risk you were for a whole host of health issues. Because when we're in survival mode, when the emotional brain takes over all the time, we have all this adrenaline coursing through our system, like excess. And what adrenaline does is it makes our heart pump faster, makes our lungs take in more air, so we're hyperventilating because we need oxygen for fight or flight. We're running, we're fighting, we need it. We're sweating to keep us cool, all sorts of things. But when we're anxious all the time, our heart cannot keep up with the increased adrenaline. It cannot keep up with this pace. So we get heart disease. There's an increased addiction and substance use, the higher the ACE score was. 4 plus more points show that those people essentially had 10 years taken off their life. They died younger because it tears down the body. We, at the end of our DNA, we have these little caps, and they're called telomeres. And they naturally degrade over time with our life cycle. So, you know, they kind of determine when we're going to die, essentially. And they found with increased stress, trauma, they degrade faster over time. So ways that you can work on your trauma, you can journal and stuff like that. Painting. Listening to your body dancing outside the studio. And I'm saying, don't focus on technique. You don't have to force your body into a different position. When you're listening to your body to heal, that's the last thing you want to do. If it's telling you to raise your arm for 5 minutes, raise your arm for 5 minutes, because that's going to unlock a memory that's trapped in that muscle. Because remember, those memories and those emotions and those sensations are trapped in your body. And you need to listen to it because your body does not have access to verbal language. Your body's going to tell you what it needs through aches and pains. It's going to tell you what you need through different sensations. Your emotion, your midbrain, your fight or flight center is going to tell you what it needs through emotions. And it's up to us to listen. That's originally how that system was supposed to work. We survive, we get someplace safe. Our emotional brain gives the power back to our thinking brain. Our thinking brain comes back online, calms everything down, takes all the emotions, takes all the memories, stores it and puts it away, so it's not there anymore. But when we're stuck into either chronic trauma, when we're stuck into things like sexual assault, that doesn't happen because we're taken out of body and we're not given that chance. Especially if like that person has to see that perpetrator all the time. That's just a constant stab wound to that emotional wound, to that trauma wound. We all have these wounds, regardless of where they come from. It's just up to us on how we respond to them. There are like 2 paths we can take in life when it comes to trauma, especially like sexual assault. We can repeat the behavior, and a lot of studies show that prior perpetrators were perpetrated on themselves. Or we can choose compassion. Then you get to decide which one you do. If you're going to choose compassion, it's not an easy road. It's going to take a lot of your own healing work and digging deep, but I can tell you it's worth it. You're going to have to face yourself. You're going to have to face your body, but it's worth it in the end when you're on the other side. And if you choose the side of the perpetrator, there's pity, because that's not a life to live. Because that's just not a life to live, harming other people. But the side of compassion is hard. It is totally hard. Because you're going to have to even admit your own mistakes and the times that you've lashed out at people out of your own anger and confusion and fear that take up everything, especially in the early days of traumas. I can tell you now, one of my newest paintings. I'm still working on this, so y'all get a preview. So I don't know if you guys can see this, but it's a skeleton, but I did sunflowers over pelvic area. And I wrote on here, and I was in the middle of doing a dance and mindfulness class when this came out, so I was really embodied doing this, so I'm taking this as a good sign. Through fire I shall walk, through winds I shall fly. Through rain I shall dance, and through earth I shall root. So we'll see where this goes. But I can tell you this is significantly different than this. So I've been doing my own personal work for the past 4 years. I've been with a phenomenal therapist for the past 4 years. And I've done a lot of hard work and a lot of EMDR. And it's not easy. For anyone who's experienced it, it's not easy. And there are going to be days where you want to give up because it sucks. You may have to keep doing this. But the thing is, the longer the trauma occurred, you're going to have to take just as long to heal. The more you carry, the longer it's going to take to heal. But also, here's the thing, you got a lifetime to do it. It doesn't have to occur overnight. Personally, I think it'd be traumatizing to heal overnight anyway, but it doesn't have to take overnight. You can take as much time as you need to heal. You can find yourself a phenomenal therapist. My rule of thumb with therapists, just so you know, if your therapist is not willing to see a therapist, run. Just stuff to keep in mind. And if they're not trained in trauma, like you can catch on if they're not like trained in trauma when they say they are, run. Because in any profession, there are good ones and then there are bad ones. Unfortunately, a lot of people in our field don't understand trauma. So it's just one of those things. It might take a while to find a good therapist. Just view it as shopping. You can always put it back. Until you find a good one. It took me a while to find a good one. Paint, collage, do something. There's this wonderful practice. It's called visual journaling. So if you like a combination of doing the arts, because healing's about layers, because wounds occur in layers. You get the initial blow, but it burrows. Sexual assault is that initial blow, but it burrows. It's fucking parasitic, yeah? So healing's gonna take time, it's gonna take layers, you're gonna have to dig deep. So there's this wonderful practice of visual journaling. It's going to take, you find a book, and you can find someone who like works on it, stuff like that, or you can follow things on Pinterest. The product, like the end product, A, never happens. B, don't focus on it because it has nothing to do with the final product. It has everything to do about your process and listening to your body. When you're engaged in visual journaling, you're listening to your urges, you're listening to your body. If it's telling you to paint it black, then you're painting it black. If it's telling you to put something down, you put it down until eventually you step back. And what you're left with is your body's experience and where it's at. Kind of like my skeleton thinking. So I can tell you, like, this is one spread. So this is visual journaling. I had 4 pages. But you can start with journaling, and then you just keep layering and you keep going. This used to be white, I painted it black. And you keep journaling. And I can't see it very well, but you keep adding. It has nothing to do with the end product. You just keep going. And next thing you know, you're gonna have this story to tell. Next thing you know, you're gonna find your key, like where you now feel safe. Those are birds if you can't tell. So, in my bio I say I'm really interested in stories. And I guess that's probably why I like working in books and repurposing them. Because our brains are very associative. It needs a story. Because it's already black and white, it needs safe, not safe. It doesn't know anything in between. Safe, not safe. This person's safe, cool, why are they safe? Why do we like them? Just so we know, and we can keep it and put it aside, why are they safe? And then not safe, which the brain really focuses on, like tenfold focuses on not safe. So when it's focusing on this, it needs to know why. So it can have it in front of it at all times. Because it's associative, it's going to base these experiences on past experiences. So I too like Brene Brown, and she does this wonderful example to show how story-based our brains are. So you know when like someone's texting you and you see the 3 little dots going, and then they stop texting you, and now you have a story as to why they're not texting you. You have no idea what's going on, but you know you got a story. You know why they stopped texting. The brain doesn't actually need anything to tell it why, but it needs a story to figure out why we're feeling anxious, why we're all of a sudden like, this isn't cool, we're not feeling safe. So working with like art and painting for me helps me tell my own story and to work through it. Things like dancing mindfulness and how you can also use dancing and movement yourself is you can tell your story through your movements. It doesn't have to be graceful because trauma is not graceful. If trauma is graceful, we probably wouldn't be in this panel discussion. So if it's curling up in a ball for an hour, then you're curling up in a ball for an hour. My first dancing mindfulness class, I was in child's pose half the time. But that's what my body needed. It needed to complete a movement. So it really is digging in deep. It really is coming back to your roots. Your healing journey is essentially making your body home again. It's taking back power. It's taking back that control, and it's taking back your home. And so the initial stages, I can tell you, of healing are going to include denial. It's not like it's kind of like grieving. So you're going to grieve. You're going to hit denial as, nope, I'm fine. Think, what's that wonderful saying? Fine is fucked up, insecure, neurotic, and what does E stand for? I don't know, but we get the picture. Not fine. Righteous anger. So there will be, again, I mentioned earlier that intense, deep rage. Use it. Not used to hurt, but that righteous anger. Because the righteous anger is that acknowledgement of what occurred was fucked up. Righteous anger, it will help motivate you to take back your wall, take back your home, take back your body. Use it as motivation, because when you're coming from denial, which essentially is frozen, you're stuck, to righteous anger, that one's motivating to an extent. Righteous anger is okay. We're usually taught that anger is bad. Anger is one of like our very primitive emotions. It's one of our survival responses. It motivates fight. It kicks in when we feel like we're backed into a corner. So you can picture a survivor as someone who's backed into a corner. And when they've hit the righteous anger stage, they're no longer frozen. They're no longer in flight. They're coming back to their own and taking back the right to be themselves. So that's how you use anger to heal, righteous anger to heal, not to harm. Right? So that's the difference between repeating the cycle and compassion. 7 more minutes. Okay. There's always those moments of wanting to give up. Well, that's fine. Listen to your body. If you want to shut down for a day, cool, do it. There's nothing wrong with rest. Healing is emotional work. It's also physical work. Survival and healing are very much like running marathons in place. It's exhausting. So you'll probably have some days where all you want to do is lay down and watch Netflix. Cool, do that. Just brush your teeth at some point. Meal prep. Find out your routine. While you're healing, you want a routine. Something that's going to work for you then. For me, I know if I don't meal prep on Sundays, I'm not really eating anything for dinner or lunch for the week except for popcorn. So I know that meal prepping on Sundays is something that I need to do. So you need to figure out, and it's going to take some experimentation to figure out what works best for you. Find a routine, because that routine is going to be a structure. That routine is going to reflect what's going on in here. So if you want to fix what's going on in here, you got to work with your body to figure out what it needs. Eating something actually good for you is actually helpful, because the majority of the serotonin, our happy hormone, is made in the stomach. 70% of it is made in the stomach, not the brain. Fun fact. So you do want to make sure you're eating. Go outside. That fun quote that I always see on Pinterest, we're essentially houseplants with complicated emotions. Go outside for 5 minutes. Look at a tree. That actually scientifically is proven that if you look at nature for 10 minutes, it's going to boost the amount of dopamine and serotonin in your brain. It's very simple. Healing doesn't have to look like this big, complex, come to God moment. It's a slow heal with simple moments. And eventually you'll hit this moment, but all of a sudden you feel safe. And you can look around you and everything's okay. It might last for a second, it might last for a minute, but I can tell you once you hit that moment, you'll start to have more often. You just got to give yourself the opportunity to do so. And then make sure you're connecting with people. Good people. And you'll see who those good people are, because they'll be able to hold space for you. My people, they waited for me for 3 years to talk to them. They didn't force me to. They didn't do anything. They waited. Your good people will show you who they are. Keep them. And then make sure you fight hard as hell to get to that moment where you can be vulnerable with them. Because that's going to mean the world. You cannot heal without vulnerability. It's actually courageous. It is so fucking courageous to be vulnerable in a world that tells you not to. So keep going. Just small moments, small things will build up into something huge. And that's all you need. It doesn't have to be extravagant. It can be small. Whether it be cuddling with your cat, getting a hug from a loved one, or watching your favorite TV show. It's totally up to you. I have no idea if I hit time or whatever, but that's where I'm gonna end that at that point.
Oh, no problem at all. Sorry, this is Matthew. He's a part of the guest house team as well. Thank you so much for your conversation. You have a very calming voice, which I appreciate very much. And you've definitely touched on a lot of points. I actually had a few questions to ask you, but you just kind of touched on everything, and I was like, erase. Totally great. I definitely do want to ask a few questions that some people are asking. I have a personal question. You said that image speaks louder than words, especially when it comes to listening to our physical bodies. Do you have any grounding tips or techniques that people can do to calm their nerves at the initial moment of trauma, for instance, or being mindful of their body? For instance, I've learned about emotional freedom techniques, tapping, breathing, etc. Is there anything that you can touch on or tips that you can give us too?
Well, as someone, like a rule of thumb, if you're supporting somebody, don't touch them without good permission. To start off with, to this day, my people will not hug me until I give them permission, and it's been years, but still they hug okay. And that's just for me, and that's how I practice a lot of my power of my body. So that's a tip and trick. Don't touch them without permission. As for grounding techniques, and those can also be exceptionally simple. You can do deep breathing, and not deep breathing of I'm going to expand my stomach past discomfort, but whatever that means to you. Just make sure you're using belly breathing, kind of like what babies use, and we're taught to use at chest in adulthood, which is so wrong, because that doesn't actually use all your lungs. Just make sure your exhales are longer than your inhales. Otherwise, you start mimic hyperventilating, and that causes more anxiety, kind of the opposite of what we're trying to do. So when I'm working with clients who are really anxious or really in a deep freeze, so like deep depression or just deeply frozen after trauma, and they're not in the bodies, I'll have them do just some breathing with me. And I will mimic myself that I'm doing it with them as a form of support. And I'll just simply inhale and then I'll exhale. You don't have to do counting. If counting works for you, that's fine. But it doesn't have to be anything extraordinary. Again, it can be simple. There's also this funny thing called monkey tapping. It was actually observed in gorillas where the researchers actually thought they were pissing off the gorillas and they were about to get attacked. But it turned out they were coping, because gorillas can cope better than we can. What they observed was gorillas would hug themselves. So this hug calms down the cardiovascular system, the heart rate. Now you start tapping side to side, kind of like a metronome, side to side, slowly and calmly. And what they found is the side to side, what it actually does is it hits the left and the right hemispheres at an even interval. What it's doing is crossing, we have this major nerve bundle called the corpus callosum that runs down the middle of the brain and connects everything. And it actually connects down to the emotional brain, the midbrain, through the hippocampal nerve, so it's huge for communication. It doesn't necessarily get utilized as much as it should be when we're stuck in survival mode and traumatized, because thinking brain's off. So monkey tapping, actually, this very simple motion actually turns on the thinking brain and it calms everything down. And so it's redirecting a lot of blood flow. Now, if you don't want to be in public hugging yourself, there are different ways you can modify it. Though during the age of a pandemic, it might help with social distancing. You can tap your fingers side to side. You can tap your feet side to side. A lot of my leg shakers like tapping their feet side to side. You want to make sure it's slowly and you're focused on it. You can just tap your legs side to side, or you can rock. I happen to be a rocker. If you're standing in a line somewhere, you can shift side to side on your feet. And you want to do it slowly. You can add in a deep breath. I find other things like, for me, painting, I use this as a container, my visual journaling. So I just throw everything that I'm experiencing in here, and I just close the book and I'll put it away, and I'll come back to it later and make sense of it at a later time, but just in here and then it's away, so it's out. And then giving room for people to move however it is that they need to, whether I'm paying attention to what they're doing. But I would start off with deep breathing and the monkey tapping.
Well, thank you for that. And you gave incredible resources to help us ground, and that's really what I wanted, so thank you. There's a lot of questions for you, which if you are more down to answer that, then I am down to share it with you. It's just we would be going over time, but I would rather ask it for everyone here. So just to let everyone know that we will be going over time. I believe the latest we might end is 10, but you choose to however you deal with your time. Okay. One was that, so this is quite a long one. I read an article that compared survivors who spoke about their stories and others who didn't, and how this choice affected their healing process. It was said that a recurring theme for sexual assault survivors was that they lost their sense of agency when they were assaulted, aka their senses of control were stripped away. For the survivors who chose not to speak up about their assault, they were only able to heal after making the dissociation between their past self when they were assaulted and present self. Although in order to make this association, survivors naturally held accountability for their assault. Based on your knowledge of research or what you've seen from your clients, do you see a difference in the healing process between people who do speak up about their stories and who don't?
Well, that's a loaded question.
Yeah.
It's an area of gray. It really depends on what they're doing to actually heal. I've had plenty of clients in session that they don't share their stories with anybody else, but I happen to be the first person that they share it with. If they're not sharing it with anybody else, that's totally up to them. I try to kind of explain it in terms of that's, your choice to not share it with anybody else. And that starts the process of having control over self and what they share and what they give. So while sometimes people do reach a point where they do want to share their story, or they are apt to, the thing is, you don't want to force anyone to share the story because that's theirs. If you force them to share it, you're re-traumatizing them and you're taking away their power again. So it's up to people how often they share, when they share, and with whom they share. That's their choice, and that actually helps support give a sense of agency right back. So I don't know if that really helped answer that question, but it's an area of gray. It depends on where people are in their healing process, and honestly who they're working with and how it's been kind of packaged for them.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yep. Thank you for answering that. More and more questions are coming in, so I might have to cut it off, but we're going to ask you 2 more questions and then open it out to the public. And to the public here, if you do have a question that I see that's being typed up, I encourage you to ask so I can ask other questions so we can split that evenly. Okay. One was, how can a survivor build their trust again, or help other survivors gain trust to confide in other people and etc.?
Slowly. It takes years. Like I said previously, to be a supporter, like my people, I call them like my tribe, my chosen family. They waited 3 years for me. Like I didn't talk to anybody. They waited 3 years. So as a supporter, you can provide opportunities. Not shove it down anybody's throat, but you can provide opportunities like, hey, we're having a game night, you're welcome if you want to come. And not taking it personally if that person does not show up. But there's that opportunity, and I guarantee you they will remember that opportunity. They will remember how you respond. If you're when you're supporting someone in their presence, it's not forcing your presence on them. It's getting out of the way. It's not about you, it's about them. So if they decide to tell you their story, it's just sitting there and listening. If they decide to not tell you their story, that's okay. You're sitting there and listening to the silence. If they are, one way how I like to support people, whether they be a client or someone close to me, is ask the question, how do you want me to support you? How can I support you? And sometimes they'll tell me, like, I just need you to sit here. All right, well, sit here. Sometimes if I get, I don't know. All right, cool. So my specialties are distractions, cute animal memes, or just randomly going off on some random fact tangent. Pick one, and and that's still giving them options. They get to pick one, or they'll come back with, no, actually, I need you to do this. It depends. So how can I support you? And you kind of get that from them, so you don't have to like grasp at straws of, oh my God, what do I do? And a lot of times people just want a body there, or to know that they have someone they can turn to when they're hitting their lowest moments and connect. It's something to keep in mind when someone's traumatized. They don't know how to connect because their brain, when you're in survival mode, your brain's not going to let you connect to people. The opposite of trauma and dissociation is connection. So you can't connect to people when you're traumatized. It's going to be a slow thaw. So as a supporter, you have to be patient. Like really, really patient. And they'll eventually come to you.
Thank you for that. Personally, for me, whenever I would want to help others, I always say the same thing. My specialties are jokes and making up stories, and so I do that too. So thank you so much. Last question I'm going to ask you, then I'm going to open it up to Kin and then Tanja. The question is there a correlation between sexual abuse and sexual orientation?
No.
Okay.
Some people do. If they're assaulted, they'll change their sexual orientation, and that's up to them. That's totally up to them. There's no shame in that. But no, there's not. It's actually sexual orientation comes down to DNA. So we're born with it.
Yeah.
So no, there's not.
it totally makes sense, especially with the DNA part. I was like, yep. All right, I'm gonna open it up to the participants here, and thank you so much for answering my
I want to add in like a really quick thing. It's a random fact, and I love random facts. There are over 400 species on this planet that have LGBT. Only one that's homophobic and trans. So keep that in mind, guys. This also has nothing to do with sexual orientation. It's actually a natural thing.
Oh, that's oh my God, yeah. Over 400 species, and there's just one, us.
So yeah, over the floor.
Simple water, yes. So I'm gonna open it up to the public. So Kin Nguyen, who definitely everyone here has connected me with us with Peyton. So thank you so much, Kin. Kin would like to ask a question to you.
Okay.
Hi, Peyton. How are you?
Good. How are you?
You again. I just have a question. Not a question, like a kind of like a little request for you. In our session when we were talking about like trauma and stuff, we were talking also about facilitating safe spaces. And safe space is always like a term that people just throw around within our community without knowing what it is and how to like provide safe spaces for people. So I'd like to ask you to kind of like just like literally say the same thing you told me, just like as a person who is knowledgeable about trauma and how to facilitate safe spaces, just for all of us to kind of like be reminded.
Okay.
Thank you.
Welcome. All right, so safe spaces. It seems to be that new like buzz phrase, but I don't know if you guys know the movie Princess Bride, but that is kind of like that quote. Yeah, what you think you're saying, whatever the thing, but like it's being misused. So I'll talk about safe spaces. It's probably not going to come out 100% like I told you, Kin, because usually I do things most in the flow. So to have a safe space, you don't tell somebody it's a safe space. Because essentially in the brain's going to determine if it's safe. That person, it's up to them to determine if it's safe. The common reaction when you're telling somebody, this is a safe space is, yeah, right, fuck you. So you can't tell somebody someplace is safe. So to determine, to help someone see that it's a safe space is refraining from that verbiage, is to refrain from telling somebody to relax. Because I think we all know when you tell somebody to relax, it never works. Don't touch them without the permission. Don't walk up behind them without the permission. Traumatized people are going to be very hyper vigilant. They're going to be panicked. Like their brain is like on survival mode tenfold. It's going to be paying attention to everything. So it's really looking for threats. So that person's not going to be relaxed. They're not going to be safe. They're going to be on edge. So if somebody's coming up from behind them without like acknowledging they're there and randomly like touching a person, whatever, it's going to freak them the fuck out. You'll get an startle response. You'll see this a lot of the time. Automatically the brain's gone, nope, not safe. So don't touch. Don't go up behind. Don't tell them it's safe. Don't tell them to relax. Use invitational language, especially if like you're teaching somebody. Invitational language will mean the world. So it's not like, so that's best going to be like, so in my dance and mindfulness classes, I'm not telling them to move the body in a certain way. I'm going to invite them like, hey, this kind of reminds me of like flying like an airplane. I wonder what you guys would think. Or, hey, I'm going to invite you to just notice your body's response to this next song. So invitational language is huge because that's actually giving that person choices. More often than not, they'll probably either ignore you or they'll do what you were invited to do. And if they ignore you, that's okay. That's actually huge if they ignore you, because it means that they're trusting you and they've determined the place is safe. So invitational, that's going to be huge. And it's listening. If they're getting up the gumption to express their needs to you, listen. It's huge for a traumatized person to speak up for themselves. So listen and take it seriously. Even listen to the silence. Listen to the body language. The body language, communication is 90% body language. We have this entire other neural network on just it's called the social integration network, and it works entirely outside of everything else and then just feeds you right into the emotional brain for safety. So it doesn't go through like our thought process or anything. That's where we get our gut intuition from. Listen to your gut intuition. Because it's always analyzing body language. So they're going to be watching your body language to see if you're safe or a threat. But listen to theirs. If they're hunched around you all the time, they've determined that you're not safe. You might want to take cue into you and to like pay attention to your body language. Are you standing too close to them? Because personal space is a thing. If you're watching them and you walk up to them and they take a step backwards, stop walking up on them. So listen to that silence, listen to what the body's saying. Again, I have no idea if I just hit on everything. Those are just a few suggestions.
No, it was amazing. Thank you so much. I hope this is like a great learning lesson to all of us teachers out there. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I know Tanny had a question. If you can answer your question really, really fast, Tanny, as we gotta go. If you're here.
Yeah, I'll keep it pretty short, I guess.
Thank you.
So I guess like my question comes from like trying to understand that like neurological kind of perspective here is like you're saying that like converting or like sort of healing trauma, I should say, through art, like either like artistic or like movement. And then there's this other thing that I'm picking up on is like physical adjustments, like your shoulders, like tapping your feet, going into child's pose or straightening your spine, all these kind of physical movements. So I'm wondering, like, every time that you do this and you're repeating it and you're trying to make it like a habit or a practice, are you like more so conditioning, like actually conditioning or filling that like gap of what the trauma sort of created in your mind? Or is it more so like, maybe I'm confused on even like what it's actually like doing. Like, of course you can see the benefits like as soon as, you're in the moment temporarily acting upon those actions, but like, is it just a matter of repetition and long term for it to, like, is your brain being tricked into, or is it like actually like healing? I don't know what I'm asking, but.
Oh, no, I got what you're asking, and that's a really good question. And if anybody has any other questions, you're more than welcome to email me. I'm sure that stuff will be posted later. So actually, you're not tricking your brain. So there are more messages from the body to the brain than from the brain to the body. When we're trying to talk ourselves out of things, that's technically us trying to trick and ignore everything else. So when you're doing these small body adjustments, you're actually listening to what your body's saying, like, I'm depressed. All right, I'm going to lengthen the spine. So we're like working with essentially that body muscle metaphorically and then not metaphorically to set that change, because that's sending the message up to the brain that we're okay or that we're safe, because it's always sending signals up there if we're safe or not, or if things are going on. So even that, like, it's been going around, it's a great meme that's going around, like, unclench your jaw and drop your shoulders and drop your tongue, because then you start releasing tension. When you notice those, you start to release a lot of tension. So over time, you can start to actually heal a lot of things with that, because then you're actually listening to your body. And a lot of what that is just really listening to what's going on in your body and adjusting or having that conversation. Sometimes, like, I had this old scar when I was playing rugby where I actually tore an abdominal muscle, and it's healed to this day. But when I'm really anxious, it really, really starts to hurt. And I listen, and instead of trying to ignore it or try to push through whatever's stressing me, I actually take a moment, like, I know we're stressed, I'll take a moment to breathe. And I do that and it goes away. So your body is going to send you all these messages because that's how it communicates. It's just up to us to make those adjustments while we're listening. So I hope that answered that question.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Peyton, for your exceptional talk. It was incredible, and you are so appreciated to this community, as you've definitely helped us with thinking about more of our actions and such. Is there any last minute words or anything that you'd like to express or share, or even your socials or anywhere people can find you?
Yeah, so I'll put my my email in there for everybody to get, because after this I do have to take off so I can go to bed and be semi-lucid for my clients tomorrow. But it really just comes down, the biggest decision you'll make in your life during for healing is deciding to do something about it. And that will just be enough motivation to get you going. And along the way, along your journey, things will fall in place the way they're supposed to be. So instead of trying to fight things or force an outcome, just go with the process and going with that intuition and really just listen to your body. Just like, I can't express it enough. Your wealth of knowledge and healing is already in you. You just gotta listen to it. So yeah, that's it.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you very, very much. Matthew's clapping. All right. Well, have a good night. Take care and hope you have a great day tomorrow. We're going to move on just to let everybody know that we are over time. So we got to keep it pushing. All right. So for our next speaker, we have Vinsia Maharajah. Professionally, Vinsia Maharajah is a photographer, creative art director, and digital creator based in the cozy ends of Scarborough, Ontario. She is also an entertainer under the name of Kulapati, which means troublemaker in Tamil. She is an advocate for mental health and many other social issues and does so vocally through various mediums. Her hobbies include collecting memes, chilling with her dog Cleo, and smuggling houseplants into her room without her parents seeing. You can also check out her podcast where she speaks on a lot of issues and stuff that she believes in, called Love Vinsia. So without further ado, let's introduce you to Vinsia.
Oh. Hello? Oh, there we go. Okay. Dark in here. I didn't even know. Okay, so I hope everyone's doing okay. I know today may have been like heavy topics, so while I do my little intro, if you need to like zone out, look at like some wholesome memes, or I don't know, just jam out to a Tupac song, go for it. So I'm just gonna adjust the lighting in here because it's a little sleep inducing. Okay, I think that's a little better. Okay, cool. So my name's Vinsia. You can follow me at Vinsia on Instagram. And I do a lot of things, so you could just feel free to just creep through and see what I do. I've been a creative for 10 years. So I started when I was 16 and I'm 26 now. So I started off with like YouTube and like comedy skits in Tamil, and then I progressed into, I tried dance for a while. I tried dance. My favorite genres would be obviously like the South Asian, South Indian, Tamil like style called Ghana or Kuttu. And I also like Kathak as well as dance hall. Dance hall is so much fun. I love dance hall so much. But yeah, it was just a short little while in the dance community, and I'm not really a part of it anymore. But then if you catch me on the dance floor, you'll know I like to dance. So that being said, I'm just gonna kind of, I guess, like speed read through this, and because I'm feeling sleepy and I know everyone's feeling sleepy, so I'll just kind of do short form version of everything if I can. And if you have any questions, feel free to put it in the little chat box. I have it open so I can just read and multitask because I'm kind of good at that. But yeah, anyways, so the first thing I want to kind of address is any prejudices I've experienced from being vocal or generally in the South Asian community as an artist. So I got a lot to say about that. Honestly, I feel like when you're Tamil and you're not from like spaces that are called like desi spaces, it's very alienating, and especially when, you know, your identity doesn't include like samosas and dupattas and Bollywood and all that stuff, but your identity contains war and mom saris that were like smuggled in, and I don't know, like stories of trauma that were passed down, as well as the good moments, the fun dancing, the great parties and the weddings, and all that stuff. But my identity does not fit in with what mainstream South Asian identities are, especially as a Tamil woman whose identity is very fragmented. And even within our community, it's a crazy space. It's so crazy. If you're too vocal about something, they will come after you. And I know people on GUESThouse know what I'm talking about. So thank you guys for having my back. I appreciate y'all. Being a South Asian person is dope. It just sucks when people, put you in that kind of assumption box of, oh yeah, she's probably going to talk about like, Bollywood or something. And that's not the case. I don't know a lick of Hindi other than chai and the word dupatta, which is kind of forced down my throat because, in order to fit in South Asian spaces, I had to learn these words. But did anyone from like mainstream South Asian spaces ask how I say tea in Tamil? Fam, we say te tani. It literally means tea water. We say te tani. So just little things like that. It's been difficult, and but I'm proud to be Tamil. For some things, other things not so much. If you peep my profile and read my content and whatever, you'll know that's a whole different thing. But another thing that's like a prejudice that I've experienced as a South Asian person is in educational spaces. Like when you create a piece that's about your identity and your culture, and you explain it to professors that are not your culture. I mean, not ethnic. So their spice cabinet isn't like the size of a closet. So, okay. I've had professors kind of dismiss, like my photography work that was, very time consuming, very poetic, very like, I wanted to explain the story behind it and why I chose to do certain things. And like professors would dismiss me or just be like, yeah, okay, like it should be a short presentation and things like that. So it sucks. Like I don't feel heard. But again, it's like that's why I have my own space, and that's why I work so hard on creating that space. And so for those of you who don't feel like you fit in a space, make your own space and take up space, because space is infinite. Like trust me, it's infinite. I've been doing this for 10 years, and I know it's infinite. Take up that damn space. That's yours. You get to create that space. Don't ever feel that you have to pack yourself up into this tiny little ball and fit in a little cubby hole on a shelf. This is not kindergarten class. This is the world. This is the world. And with that being said, I'm just gonna kind of jump into forms of assault and harassment. If any of this is triggering for you, by the way, feel free to have like, I don't know, like a separate window open with like really cute dank memes or really cute wholesome memes of dogs and cute couples and stuff like that doing their thing. So feel free to tune out for a bit, and if you feel like I'm not talking about that stuff anymore, feel free to tune in anytime, because I know we all got triggers, and I like it's very complicated to address all of them all at the same time. So I'll just go ahead. I'm just letting you know in advance. So in terms of harassment, this can happen online, in person, texts, anytime like someone's giving you or like, trying to communicate with you, but you don't want that communication. It's not like a two-way street. It's just kind of like, you're trying to get onto the eastbound 401 and someone's taking the wrong way and they're trying to come out of the entrance. It's not cool. It's not cool. Sorry, I'm using Scarborough references because that's me. Anyways, but yeah, so harassment. I feel like parents are generally excluded from this. Like my mom can call me 36 times. That's okay. But random user Sean 32 72 62 from Instagram who hacked my account, got my phone number, can't contact me because I don't know who they are and they're not allowed. Anyways, with that being said, the next place where harassment and I feel like harassment, manipulation, and abuse happens is in dance spaces. Like when I was in the dance space, it's kind of why I'm not there anymore. I'm really sad. But a lot of it's related to trauma, manipulation, and abuse. And when it's a competitive space, oh my Lord. just make sure you have a bit of a life outside of the dance space. When it's a really like a hyper competitive space, just make sure you have your own little peaceful place outside of the competitive place, because a lot of manipulation can happen, and you might even hate your own siblings towards the days of the competition. Who knows? You never know. But anyways, I've been there, done that, so I just kind of stepped away. But that won't prevent me from working with dancers, or collaborating with dancers on projects that are like mixed media and stuff like that. So even though I'm not like dancing around and doing my thing, I still appreciate dancers. I love dancers. Like, they're dope. They're so dope. They're one of my favorite dance form, like one of my favorite modes of expression, which I'm not that good at, but I love watching, and I enjoy it thoroughly. I admire dance a lot. Okay, so assault can range from obviously physical, so your local bar fight, or more planned and more serious things, as well as sexual unwanted contact, up until more, let's not go there, but more intense, not so cool stuff. And it's just these kind of things. It's basically essentially like an invasion of your space, your mind, your almost like your health and wellness in a sense too. Like, someone's like, usually if someone's gonna give you a hug, there's always these symbols, and you kind of know someone's gonna go in for a hug, and if you're about it, you go, and if you're not, you're like, yo, you know what, it's Corona time, let me just shake your hand and say, actually, let me not shake your hands, okay, let's tap elbows, things like that, like just little things, and those are important. And yeah, with that being said, I'm going to jump into grooming, because I also noticed this is something that was happening in the dance community, not just in South Asian spaces, but just in general, and I'm noticing more dancers are speaking up about it. So keep speaking up, don't be afraid, and just know that if you do have the courage and the strength to share something, there will be at least 10 or even 100 people you don't know that will be there for you, or support you, or stand by you. So grooming can be, like, the good grooming is when you're paying for a service. So like, you're getting a haircut, you're getting your beard lined up, you're getting a facial, you're getting all three. That's grooming. That's a good grooming. Bad grooming is kind of when, someone who may have higher power than you within a dance space, or within a workspace, or any other space where there's, obviously more vulnerable people, or like more people here, and then there's more people up here that have some more power, and they there might be some evil ones in there that might offer you things and make you feel super recognized. And it's just weird. Grooming is a really messed up thing. I mean, I think there should be crash course videos on this on YouTube, but I was watching the what's his name, Jeffrey Epstein thing last night, so that's a prime example of that's a whole different I don't want to go there anyways. So okay, I'm gonna go to how you personally overcame any trauma. For me, it's definitely the arts. Like, I've been like an artsy fartsy for a very, very long time, ever since I was a kid. And professionally, I've been doing it maybe, I don't know, to be honest, but there's a fine line between when it was a hobby to when it became professional. Very fine line. Like, I don't even know where it stops and begins. But for me, definitely the arts was a way to kind of start talking about my trauma and addressing it. Writing helped, but then again, when you're in a community that's still very, very taboo, like, it's still taboo to talk about sexual assault, sexual abuse, and sexual anything, unless if it's in like a goofy, derogatory way. If you're Tamil, oh my god. Like, when you start talking about these things, obviously people will try to tear you down, and it's not cool. It's definitely not cool. And yeah, it's not cool. That's all I gotta say for that. So I honestly, right now, at this present moment, I have people that are literally doing everything to invalidate me and to tear me down. And it's so difficult, especially when you built a platform and you have a space that you made, and then there's these people harassing you, forcing themselves in, saying, you're a liar, you're a fake, you are doing this for clout. Sorry, my voices change all the time. I'm like that anyways. But honestly, it's difficult. There are people that will question you. There are people that will invalidate you. Like, it doesn't even matter if it was like trauma related to like sexual related stuff. It could be like, you know, trauma related to somewhere you've been or something you've done. People will be like, wait, what? You know, people have it worse. And, you know, if it's people like that, run away from them. If you have friends that invalidate you, your trauma, like your pain, if they're like, yeah, you know, no, I think other people have it worse. Like, just, you know, knock it off. That's a red flag. And if you, you know, if you don't really check that friendship or that relationship, you should do so soon, because I mean, it is Corona time, so now's the best time to just say bye-bye and do your thing. But yeah, so my little opinions and options or whatever on how to support survivors. So say if you or a loved one or someone you care about discloses that they are a survivor, you know, empathy would be more useful than sympathy. Like, oh my God, I'm so sorry for what happened to you. That's not as helpful as, you know, what happened to you was not your fault. Like, hearing that for me as a survivor was like, for so many years I hear, oh, I'm so sorry this happened to you. Even right now with all sorts of stuff happening, it's like, oh, I'm so sorry this is happening to you. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't really do anything. It's just a very kind of one way, just, yeah, I feel bad for you. You'll find a way. Okay. But if it's like empathy, it'd be more like, you know, it's not your fault. And if you need anything, just let me know. I'm always here. You know, just honestly, listening is always the best option for to help survivors, or even just to, you know, just to your friends that you care about. Just listen. I know we love to talk, but like listening's dope. Like, you could learn so many things about someone else's perspective. So listening helps. Resources. Okay, so I'm a self-proclaimed resource dealer. I don't even, like, someone make up a dance move for me to, like, I don't know. But I love collecting resources from the community. So if you are interested in seeing those for free, like right now on your phone, go to vinsia.ca/resources, and I organize them in a way where it's like mental health resources are first on the thing in a tan color, and then dark green is for survivors, like, you know, resources for them, and then gold is like legal resources, and the white all the way at the bottom is yoga by people of color. Because as a brown woman, I don't feel comfortable with like white people running healing spaces that were originally by brown folks. So like, for me, that is traumatizing to be in a space like that. So to know that there are people of color yogis and, you know, health and wellness people that are very like POC oriented, like, I appreciate that, and it really helps with my own healing. Let me see. Oh, another person that's really dope to check out is Farah Safia Khan. I believe she's currently at Ryerson University as a professor, or she works at Consent Comes First, and that's a space that's open to everyone. So if you are downtown and you need some support, that's definitely a good place to go. And you know, her work's amazing. You can check out her website. And there's so many useful, almost free resources and apps and books and coloring pages and everything. And like the whole resource page there feels like a hug. Like, it feels good. That's a good place to go. So feel free to go there. Let me see here. So like, because I have a platform, people do approach me, and sometimes it's a little scary, because sometimes people, if I share resources for survivors, someone might feel comfortable enough to just, you know, kind of just knock on my door of my DMs and be like, hey, I have a very traumatic story. I'm just gonna copy paste and just leave it there. And it's very triggering for me. So I tell them, I'd be like, hey, you know, like, I appreciate you thinking that you could trust me and tell me this. And, you know, for me, it was very traumatizing. Like, I really wish you gave me a heads up. If you did, like, I would have made space and I would have been there to hear you out. But it's a bit triggering, so I'm going to take some space, and when I'm ready to reply, I'll reply. And, you know, that's sometimes it's as simple as that. You know, you should be able to tell someone that, hey, like, you know, I don't want to read this because I don't want to. And, you know, you should be allowed to say, yeah, I'm not going to engage with this, or this makes me uncomfortable. Don't be afraid to say that, because they're in your private, like, email or inbox. Like, that's your space too. Like, you gotta make sure, like, what's in there should be like, I don't know, a cute little garden and not like a dumpster. Just, you know, you can choose to engage and not engage with people. And I'm just like, this feels like a speed round. This is a speed round. My energy is like way more daytime energy. I'm so sorry if y'all are trying to relax and I'm like super like hit that play X2 button on YouTube. That's me right now. But I'll slow down a little bit. But as a survivor, how can other survivors who want to speak up find the confidence to speak up? The biggest key, pretend this is a key. I know this is a massive tweezer, but pretend this is a key and I'm giving it to you. The key is basically own your story. This is my story. I own it. This is my story. You know, I get to give it to people to, you know, read or to learn or to know, and I have power in controlling that. When you I notice a lot of people do give their disclosures to like people with platforms or influencers or people who know that a lot of eyes will see it. You know, that gives your power away to that person, and you might not even be emotionally connected to that person. So, you know, will they check in on you because you shared something so vulnerable with them? Like, will they? And sometimes some people just want these stories for their own gain, but they don't necessarily provide the support afterwards. And opening up can be incredibly difficult. And you know, when you open up, you do need some support ready, or some support, you know, to fall back on in case things don't go as planned. Like, say if you decided to open up, but then last minute you're like, yeah, I'm not doing it, like, and you feel really anxious, you do need to create. Hang on, I think my dog is gonna join us. Yes. Hello. Ethnic household problems. Apa, berenggo. Leo. Berenggo. Sorry. Anyways, let's see here. Apa, berenggo apa? மேல விடுங்க, நான் வீடியோ எடுத்துட்டு இருக்கிறேன். I have it. You have to unlock the door. Sorry. I'm so sorry. Okay, I got 10 minutes. All right, bless. We're almost to the end, by the way. So I think I'm doing okay. Anyways, once this is on YouTube, you can slow it down to like a good 0 point something speed. But anyways, let's see. Also, when you do disclose your story, obviously you control the narrative. You know, you have to know that whatever happened to you wasn't your fault. Never feel that your story isn't worth sharing, because honestly it is if you're comfortable. For some people, keeping that to themselves is very empowering. To others, sharing it is empowering. So find what's right for you. And you know, don't let anyone's invalidating comments get the best of you, because as there are 1 or 2 invalidating comments that might stick really heavily to your heart, there are hundreds and thousands of positive, you know, people that will stand by you, that may not actually like reach out and tell you, but you know, they have love for you. Even though they don't know you, they have support and love for you, disclosing. But yeah, with that being said, I'm gonna try to be efficient. Let me see. Okay, I'm gonna pick like a couple of questions in this thingy points. Let's see. Ooh, I got a question. Okay, cool. I'll just go to the questions then. Let's be super efficient. Let's be super efficient. Okay, so before I answer that question, I just want to say, so for non-binary and female dancers that are watching, take up as much space as you can. Honestly, just go and be like an Orbeez. Like, be a little Orbeez, and when you put in the ball, it gets nice and big. Like in the water and it gets nice and big. Be an Orbeez. Take up as much space as you can. Like, if there's no space for you, go create it. It's going to be scary at first, kind of. It's almost like renovating like a really empty looking factory into a beautiful, amazing space that's yours. So, you know, if you create your space, it gives you more power to, you know, say what you want to say, do what you want to do, and be who you want to be. So, you know, feel free to create those spaces, and it only expands the dance community even further. So it's like, just keep taking up space, keep expanding. And in terms of support system, I have 2 really good ones: close friends and my therapist, which is great. She's also South Asian, and she also can relate to some of the things I've gone through. So it was great. Let me see. Okay, we got some questions. So Could you elaborate on grooming in terms of dance? Some teachers, leaders are mad chill and will kick it with students no matter the age at times. So when does that become creepy or inappropriate? Because we don't quite know the intention of that figure. They could be super waste, or they could be genuinely want to be a guide for those who are younger. This is like, it's a really difficult place to be in, especially when, you know, you can look at someone as a mentor, and, you know, like a mentor mentee relationship should be strictly that, I feel, or maybe even chill. Like, I have a mentor, but, you know, she's not at my house kicking it. Like, like she's older and she has like kids and a family and a career and, you know, just things to do. But, you know, there are red flags. Like, if you do notice that, you know, like a specific person is starting to close up, or is just kind of like floating around a specific person, or is a little bit manipulated by them, that's kind of a red flag. Other things would be, you know, just, yeah, like a lot of the, like, being open to manipulation. Some things that I've heard survivors mention is that they usually like try to groom the individual into trusting them as like an older brother or a mentor. And this is where the complicated parts get, because there are people that are genuine, like older brother, older sister vibes, and they like will ride or die for you no matter what. But at the same time, there are few people that take advantage of that. And, you know, it's often difficult. But if you are a person that is being groomed or being targeted, you know, reach out to someone that you trust. They don't necessarily have to be in the dance community. They could honestly be someone that doesn't even know you. Like, honestly, like a therapist, or even like a counselor, like a free counselor, or even my favorite number, which is on speed dial, 686868 kids helpline. Their text line is amazing. They have really good resources, and they'll help you kind of realize some stuff in terms of thinking. And it's been really helpful to people that have used the resource page to connect with them. But when it becomes inappropriate, when, like, say if it's like, I get uncomfortable when I see people my age kind of hang out too much with people that are like 16 or 17. I'm 26, and like, I put myself in the younger person's shoes. Like, would I be comfortable hanging out with, you know, this person by myself? Or, you know, like, would I be comfortable with that? It's kind of these like conversations I have within myself, just to make sure that, you know. And I also have a little sister who's like, she's like 17, so like, I'm very protective of her. So I just make sure I'm like, always check your friends, just be careful, you know. Like, I'm very protective of that. So ooh, your mom, tell your mother I said hello. Okay, in your journey, what was it like sharing your experience with your parents? Oh my god, this was woo. Okay, so I was recently, like, for my mental health, I was diagnosed last year, and I've had mental health stuff since I was in 6th grade. It's just, I kind of just bit my teeth for like 13-14 years, and finally went to a doctor last year, and I'm in such a much better place. But I didn't tell my parents I was diagnosed until this year. So I waited a bit, and I waited to be a couple of months on my medication and therapy and stuff to, you know, finally tell them. I texted them because I just wanted to, I didn't want to tell them in person. I was so scared. But, you know, like my mom was in denial at first, and she was like, no, that's impossible. How? No, you're like always happy. You're lazy. But why? How? And my dad was just like, oh, he was kind of upset. Like, he was just sad that, you know, something like that could happen. But what I noticed from my dad was he was a lot more nurturing after. Like, he's very more like attentive to, like, you know, if I'm feeling kind of sad, he'll just, you know, he'll go out and get like something like nice just to cheer me up. Or and my mom too, like, she notices. And it's just, it feels so good to have my family have my back, like, especially when they all know what I have and what I've gone through. And it just, I know a lot of people aren't privileged with that. So for me, I'm privileged in a sense where I have a family that supports me and is cool with all the weird things I do. And I'm really grateful for that. But yeah, telling your parents can be very difficult, but you do have to realize, like, they are your producers and you're a fire beat, so you gotta kind of talk to them a little bit. But yeah, I think that brings me to my countdowns, right? Hello? Excellent. Okay. But yeah, thank you everyone for dealing with me at this hour. So I hope you all have a really good evening, and I'm gonna mute myself. Goodbye.
Yay, thank you so much, Vinsia. Really appreciative of you and everything that you've said. I do have, I don't know if anybody here wants to ask questions. You pretty much answered all my questions because you touched up on them. Does anybody here have any questions that they would like to ask Vinsia? And this is Trisha, also a member of GUESThouse as well. Woohoo. Nobody? All right, you silenced everyone, so that's amazing. Thank you.
I try to bust the rhymes that speech.
What? So when you mentioned the ethnic household with the spice, I died. Anyway,
Of course, I'm like, most of us here are like ethnic owl babies. Like, I'm like, come on, like our spice owls are closets basically. So
yep. In terms of, you touched on something really important about therapists and how your therapist self-aging like you. I think it's super important that we base our therapist to our personal needs, and if that means that you want to get a female, like for me, I'm East African, so if I want to get a female East African therapist to understand my culture and my background, so I don't have to explain it to them, then do that. There's nothing wrong with that.
Exactly.
Find your purpose because you are paying them for their time, you know?
Exactly.
So. All right, I'm gonna move on to our last speaker, but thank you so much, Vinsia. Very appreciative
for having me. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, so let's go to our last speaker, and this is gonna be a great one. All right. Okay. So our last speaker is Kat Cogliandro, and please slice my neck if I said your name wrong. But Kat Cogliandro is born and raised in Houston, Texas, received her BFA in dance from SUNY Purchase. Since then, Kat has worked with creators such as Sharice Barton, Philip Sheeby, Tice Diario, Ian Eastwood, Julia Irons, and many more prominent creative artists. She has been featured in Dance Spirit Magazine, Dance Teacher Magazine, and was a featured dancer and has danced and helped assist in many movies and music videos, such as Trevor Wellesley's official 360 music video, Chivalry is Dead. Oh my God, so many credits. Oh, wow. Kat is currently based in New York City, where she teaches permanent classes at Broadway Dance Center and Perry Dance, but she travels to Los Angeles often, where she teaches at studios such as Movement Lifestyle and Millennial Dance Complex. You can find her on the road teaching for many, many conventions, and she continues to travel nationally and internationally to help people find a better understanding of themselves through dance. Kat has just teamed up with a clinical psychologist to create the first ever dance plus self-esteem getaway called Soul Meets Body, which is incredible. Ms. Cogliandro has a passion for art and expression, for freedom and love, for living an unapologetic life of happiness as she navigates through her own wild adventures of triumph and failure. She hopes to inspire others to do the same, especially the youth here, and to do so fearlessly. Her dance company, Catastrophe, wow, amazing, has been seen performing in shows in Los Angeles, New York, Brazil, and Korea. And you can definitely learn more about her on our website, katcogliandro.com, which will be posted on our Instagram. So without further ado, the amazing Kat.
Thank you so much for that introduction. Thank you all so much for having me. It's been an absolute, can y'all hear me okay? Am I okay? Let me put myself on speaker view because I'm distracting myself. Okay, here I am. All right. Thank you all so much for being here and for having me in on this conversation. I am just like, whoa, I'm just, it's been so amazing to hear so many amazing different things. And before I get started, I just want y'all to take a deep breath with me because I need one. Stormy needs one as well. He wanted to come and join as well. So let's take a deep breath together. And out, talking about trauma, talking about all the hard things. So I'm just gonna get into it. My name is Kat Cogliandro. I was 16 when it happened to me. I snuck out with my friend, went to a party. We had just started drinking. I had just broken up with my first boyfriend. Like, my heart had been broken. He was the first person I'd ever been intimate with. Oh my God, you know, teenage love, just teenage heart. And I went to this party and we were drinking. It was probably like the second time I'd ever drank. And I had a crush on this boy. I think I was just like trying to rebound. I didn't really know what that meant yet. So One thing led to another. We were kind of flirting. More drinking, more flirting, more drinking. And then we somehow ended up in this room. I've actually never told this story out loud before to multiple people. So anyway, we went into this room and I just remember like I remember him trying to like have sex with me and me being like, no, like I've only had sex with one person. I'm 16. Like, no. He didn't take no as an answer. Basically, I didn't know date rape was a thing until that happened to me. So that happened to me. I was 16. Immediately following that moment, I like fell asleep and I woke up to this happening to me and I started screaming. My ex-boyfriend at the time and his friends came and picked me up, told my parents. We went to the hospital. I got a rape kit done. It was positive that it had happened. It was real. I didn't dream it. The mom that bought us alcohol went to jail. Monday at school was the worst day of my life. And that's really where my life changed. My parents did the best they could. They put me in dance from a young age. I'm obsessed with dance still today. I didn't really have a lot of chance to get into trouble. So this is kind of the first time that I really got into trouble. But they did the best they could. They hired me a lawyer. They put me in therapy. They tried to tell me it wasn't my fault. And, I was just like, I'm good. Like, I'm fine. Let me go back to dance. This is my place. Like, I love dance. I love expressing myself. I need to be with my friends. I need to be with my spirit. I need to be with my art. And they were like, okay, like, we can't force you to do anything. Shoved it down. Down, 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 down. 16, many, many years go by. Started to struggle with an eating disorder, started to smoke cigarettes, started to fall into addiction, drinking, lots of drugs. When I went to purchase, started doing a lot of coke and a lot of Molly and a lot of ecstasy and drinking and just not showing up. And to me, it was like, I'm just a wild spirit, like, let me live. This is who I am. But to my soul, it was like, this is trauma. Did not have the language for such. Years went on, became very promiscuous, unsafely promiscuous, had a very untrusting relationship with men. Years went by, more addiction, more self-harm, more self-shame, more lack of self-worth, insecurity, unable to have relationships, anger. All of these things started building and building, and it got worse as I got older. I ended up, I'm living in New York, kind of at the peak of my career, whatever the hell that means, peak of my career. And I'm like, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna move to LA. I'm gonna switch it up. End up moving to LA, and I start to judge competitions to make money, because LA, I was like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, I don't know my place. I need to make money. How am I gonna make money? Started judging competitions. Then I started seeing little girls coming on stage, like Bo was saying, in their bikinis and their butt cheeks out and sexualizing and touching and rubbing. And I was like, started to get so triggered. I didn't have the language I didn't know the word trigger yet, but I started to feel this heat and anger. And I was like looking behind me at the parents. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Started to speak up, was silenced, fired from my jobs. I was like, this is fucking bullshit. Okay, all right, okay. No idea about the trauma sitting right here in my belly. Final straw, judged, dance moms. Love the kids. I think they're super talented, but I was there with my partner at the time and we were judging, and in come the dance moms kids and everyone's cheering and screaming. And I'm like, how are we glorifying a person that openly abuses and sexualizes children on national television in America? I don't really understand how this is okay. I'm fucking pissed. That was the end for me. Eruption, explosion. I get on Facebook, just angry type, this entire beautiful message, name dropping, shaming, blaming, what the hell is going on? It ends up getting a lot of attention. And it was really bad. Lost a lot of friends, lost a lot of jobs, lost a lot of this, lost. But gained my mentor and my mother. Her name is Leslie Scott. She called me from she was working in an orphanage in Mexico, and she called me. She was like she's like in the corner. She's like, I'm calling you from Mexico. We don't know each other, but I heard that you did this to this person, and it's blowing up on the internet, and I wanna talk to you when I get back. We end up talking when she gets back. She tells me that she is the creator of this organization called YPAD, Youth Protection Advocates in Dance. And she took me under her wing. And as I started to understand what the organization was about, which was bringing awareness to sexual abuse in dance, especially dealing with children, sexualization, objectification, exploitation, all of the demons these things kind of bring into our bodies, trauma. I started to realize my own trauma. And she was, and I remember one of the first days I met you, she was like, has anything ever, are you a victim of sexual abuse? Are you a survivor? And I was like, survivor, a victim? What? Of rape? I had never said that word out loud. My parents had tried to put me in therapy, and I was like, this is bullshit. So I really never had to say the word or like ever talk about it. I just pushed it. And she was the first person that really was like, tell me your story. Let me hear what happened to you. Let's talk about this. And from that moment on, she cracked me open and helped me embark on my journey of self-love and self-healing. It was truly, you know, they talk about I love Eckhart Tolle, and he talks about like the awakening moment, right? Like that moment where you're like, oh my gosh, my eyes are open and I can't unsee. And she did that for me. And through her education and through her mentorship and her love and her care and empathy and compassion, I went through a very intense like couple of years of just accepting that I had been traumatized, not only by, you know, what had happened to me when I was 16, but by dance teachers, overstretching, calling me fat, body shaming me, my, you know, relationship with my own parents, who I love dearly, but who, you know, pressed their own homophobic views onto me, which pressed my acceptance of my own queerness. I'm openly queer a year now, and I didn't realize how much trauma was affecting me and holding me back in my life and my career, truly, in my relationships. So she really educated me, taught me so much about just so much. I don't even know where I can even begin with her. I'm so grateful for this time we spent together. And through that work, I realized that I really truly had a purpose, and it was to heal myself so that I could help heal other people. I've always, I'm a teacher, I'm an educator. I've always had this connection to human beings and wanting to help pull from them, help them see themselves. But I didn't realize that I was not seeing myself and was inauthentic in that work. And she really helped me see that. Now, a few years later, I'm 33 now. I'm working with a therapist, still working with YPAD a little. Just started working with the Dance Safe, who I'm helping create with JoJo Diggs, and really honing in on what sexual abuse looks like, what is grooming, how do we see the signs of grooming, how do we speak up. When I met her, when I wrote that post on Facebook, that was the moment that I really started using my voice, and I was silenced so many times. There was actually a time I was auditioning for So You Think You Can Dance as a choreographer, and the producer was glorifying women objectifying themselves. And I couldn't understand why this white man is like sitting here, like glorifying women fanning their yonis. And I'm like, your show, I remember sitting in this meeting and I was like, I have a question. You're glorifying women being sexualized and exploiting their bodies, but we're not celebrating like real stories about human beings. You're actually shaming people for telling real stories, but glorifying these ideas of what it means to be beautiful. And I was like, what is the demographic of your TV show? And he was like, oh, it's women and children. I go, oh, well, look at that. Is that really what we want to teach children? And we got in this huge argument in front of everybody, and like the whole room just started to like back up. One person actually stood up and said, I agree with you, I stand with you. Out of a room full of like 15, 20 people, one person stood up. And in that moment, I was like, we have work to do. I will no longer silence my voice. I ended up getting fired from my agency. As you can probably guess, I didn't end up getting the job on So You Think You Can Dance, and you know, burned a few bridges here and there throughout the process. I've been doing a lot of work in just researching these spaces, especially in LA and New York, these studios, these choreographers, these people who are working specifically with children while abusing them, grooming them, assaulting them. And that's been my calling. I knew dance was my purpose. I knew helping people was my purpose, but working with my trauma to help other people face theirs and to stand up together is my purpose. And I feel so clear about that now and today and in this moment. I've made it a promise that I will no longer be silenced, that I will not take any job that like requires me to release my values and my integrity. I have worked with choreographers who are known predators, one in particular who is about to get dropped here in the United States. You know, my intention in working with this person was, I can't burn the house from the outside, but maybe if I get inside, I can work with these kids. My passion is education, teaching kids that they have a voice, teaching people that they have a voice that they don't need to be ashamed of. If something happened to you, it's not your fault. Something I didn't actually know until a few months ago, even still working with my therapist. And to give people the space to honor themselves and to honor their integrity, truly. I think dance has a lot of space for fear. It's very, you know, we're taught from a young age, like, you're easily replaceable. If you don't do it, then the person next to you is going to do it. And wow, yikes, that really started to bother me, mostly now. So yeah, just like trying to get into those spaces to like teach the kids and be like, hey, if someone makes you feel uncomfortable, just run with it. Hey, if someone, you know, is messaging you on Instagram and is saying inappropriate things to you, that's dangerous. That's a red flag. If a choreographer asks you to come to their house to learn the choreography, that's a no-no. If your mentor is having you come over to get high with them, that's not that I haven't made mistakes like that myself as a younger person, but now doing the research and studying what truly it looks like when we do sexualize children, the trauma that does build on them. And kind of, I'm realizing more and more, and Leslie says this too, like, sexualizing children starts to kind of put them into the space to be groomed, to be abused. Because when we sexualize children, they don't really understand maybe boundaries, or maybe they don't understand that they are being groomed, and they don't have the language to do so. So I've made it my passion, my mission in life to stand up and to speak loudly and to not be afraid of losing jobs, because if you don't want to work with me because I speak up, then I don't want to work with you either. And yeah, just like reminding people to be unafraid. What happened to you, it's not your fault, and it doesn't have to be what defines you. It's not what defines me. It's just what honestly helped build me into the person that I am today. And it has brought so many beautiful, incredible people into my life. And so, it's put me in some of the most earth-shifting situations where I'm like, whoa, I was chosen. And I think it's just honoring, you know, honoring our stories and our experiences and the experiences of our siblings and the people around us. I feel like I just kind of went on a weird tangent. I'm not really sure what just happened. Are we following? Is everyone okay? Is everyone doing okay? Yeah, you're sticking with me? Okay, cool. Yeah, I have a lot to say, but I don't really know what to say. Do you know what I mean? I honestly would just love, if it's okay with y'all, to just like open the conversation and ask questions. And I feel like the speakers before me said so many beautiful things, and I was like, no, I want to go last. It's hard to go last because I'm like, oh, everyone said all the shit that's so good, and it's like, whoa, yeah. But yeah, I'm craving community. I'm craving unity in community. I feel like we are raised with these individualistic, like, especially in dance, because we're so replaceable and we have to be legendary and we have to be this person that everybody loves and applauds, and I'll do whatever it takes to get there, because maybe that's so kind of stuck and set into our minds that we don't glorify love and like true individuality. We kind of glorify like trendy individuality, that we don't like, we get boxed in from such a young age. I mean, we talk about it all the time, like my partner and I and my friends, like, you know, just the difference between like, okay, girls dance like this, boys dance like this. Girls have to be sexy and boys have to do it masculine. What the fuck does that mean? I still don't understand. Where does that leave space for non-binary people? Are we outing trans people? Are we leaving space for trans folks? Are we leaving space for non-binary folks? Are we pushing little girls into their pink boxes and little boys into their blue boxes, and not really giving anyone space to actually express themselves? Because I feel like dance has become such a competitive trend where it's like, I must be loved because I don't love myself. I'm looking for love. I'm a performer, right? I look for love out here. Everyone clap for me, clap for me, clap for me. But do I actually clap for myself? And because we're raised in this industry, I feel like sometimes it's kind of the blind leading the blind, and it is this it's this passing down, it's ancestry, right? Like, and I'm talking about like my dance ancestors, like the people who trained me, who were broken, who were trained by someone else who were broken, who are passing the brokenness down. And I just feel a lack of community here. I feel like it's constantly like, I pick this side or I pick this side, and like, you know, ooh, we're on set and this white man is like talking down to all the women. And, you know, it's a paycheck, so I guess I gotta just grin and bear it, right? Shut up and listen and just do your job and then leave. Like, no, I don't have to do that. Money doesn't make me sleep soundly at night. Money just pays my bills so that I can sleep. But like, I believe that integrity will pay me more than money any day. And that if I'm always true to myself and like stand strongly with the people around me, that those paying jobs to pay my rent, to feed me, so that I can also make money to like donate and give back to others, like that's going to heal me faster than any industry job. And I think that's I think that's really where I'm existing right now. It's like, you know, I see you. Oh, you're supportive of me. Are you going to stand up with me when the time is right? And are we going to walk out together, or I'm going to walk out by myself? The next time that I'm in a meeting with a white man who is glorifying women that objectify themselves, but he was shaming a black man who made this beautiful piece about two gay black men in a Catholic church. And the producer's like, oh, what the fuck is this? Literally saying this. And I'm like, whoa. And for one person, actually that choreographer, to stand up with me and 12 to 15 other people to back up and just be like, oh God, that breaks my heart more than anything. And when we talk about, you know, I was writing down some notes here, when we talk about like, you know, how do we support survivors? How do we promote and practice peace and unity? We just do it. We just authentically doing it by healing ourselves first, by knowing that like we all exist here together and we all bleed the same color. And like, if you hurt, I hurt. If you're broken, I'm broken. In you is a reflection of me, and we must do better together. I crave to stop normalizing rape culture, to stop normalizing body shame, diet culture, beauty culture, capitalism, sexism, racism. Like, let's just stop normalizing all the shit that everyone told us this is the way that it's supposed to be, and that's how it is, and that's what you do. You work till the day you die, you marry a woman, you marry a man, you have a baby, you go to bed, that's what you do. No, that's not what I have to do. And it feels very much like that in the dance industry as well. This is what you do. You work for Janet, you work for Beyonce, and you work for this person, and now you're an accepted dancer in the industry. No, bitch, I take class and I love taking class, and that's enough for me, and I feel happy there. And like, you know, I worked with the choreographer one time on a TV show, and he was like, what are you, a professional class taker? I was like, yeah, sure. I'm happy. I'm happy. I don't want to work with an artist that makes me feel like shit about myself. I don't care. Like, I don't care. I just want to be happy, and I want our industry and our community to be more happy and to put healing on the forefront rather than like staying relevant. And that's, thank you all for coming to my TED Talk today. That's what I want to say. I don't really know. Again, I feel like I was just potentially diagnosed with ADHD the other day, so I feel very much that brain kind of popping around right now, and Stormy here just having a little nap, and my partner there. Are you giggling over there? Okay, so yeah. My question for all of you today to end this beautiful chat, if you have a journal in front of you, or maybe you can write in your phone, I just have 3 questions, and it's just like that you can think about yourself. What are my values? What is integrity? And how is action, how is support action-based? And what is my identity? I've been thinking about this a lot. Like, I've always identified as, I'm Kat Cogliandro, I'm a teacher, I'm a dancer, I'm a creator. This is my identity. I'm queer, I'm this, I'm that, this is my identity. But like, what is, when I strip away, I love that queer is my identity, actually, but I question dance being my identity, part of my identity. I question dance being my full #1 identity. It, I think, has caused me more pain than it has joy sometimes. And just like kind of stripping down those layers, like who is Catherine? Like, I'm Kat, but like, who is Catherine? Like, when I take all the clothes off and I'm naked and I'm alone, like, who am I really? And what do I honor? And what is important to me? And what do I value? And are those values going to stand strong when the time comes, when your job is there? And it's like, this gig is $8,000, but you're going to be body shamed the whole time, and the choreographer is going to whisper dirty shit into your ear. But it's $8,000. I want us to ask more questions. I crave more curiosity. We were just talking about kind of the black and white photo challenge going around right now. We're like, wow, this is beautiful. So many beautiful people sharing their black and white photos, but what's the actual intention of the post? What is the actual message behind what we're doing it? Are we following trend because everybody else is doing it? Or are we seeing something and being like, this is how I feel about it? Not because you told me, but because I have autonomy and I have the availability in my own body to make my own decisions and to be curious. So yeah, more curiosity. The part about being more than dance, like, yo, that shit rang. Yeah, my therapist, right when quarantine hit, I was like, whoa, okay, all right, we're in quarantine, got it, good it, whoa, okay. My therapist was like, well, what are you gonna do now that you can't like travel? And I'm used to traveling like the world. I love the world. I want to see the world. Take me back to Brazil. Mo, shout out to you. Like, take me back all over the world. My therapist is like, well, what are you going to do now that you have to sit with yourself? And I was like, what? Like, who am I? The existential question, like, who am I really? At the end of the day, who am I? And what is my purpose? And what is important to me more than what anyone else thinks of me? And yeah, I realized that like I'm very self-seeking, and I really I've looked for approval for a very long time. And it all goes back to that trauma, that childhood trauma. We really are, you know, bigger children. When I have those moments of like heat and anxiety and fear, I have to talk to baby Catherine. I can't talk to Kat, because Kat's you know, Kat's obsessed with dance. She's obsessed with working. She's obsessed with other things. But Catherine is just like so innocent and like unsure and just curious and like loving and kind and silly and daring. And, you know, it takes me back to those times of when I love teaching children and they just like don't give a fuck. They're just like, you know, they don't care. They're like, whoa, I hit the whoa. I don't even know what it is, but I'm going to hit it. I'm going to do it. And they're like doing all the things. But it's like when we put that, I'm going to not say we, but when people put that pressure on them, like someone was saying, like, to be sexy, like, you're 16, you're ready to be sexy. Bitch, don't tell a 16-year-old what they're ready to do or not to do. Let them make their own decisions. Stop telling people what is right. What is this? What is wrong? Like, why does it have to be so side to side? Yes. I don't know what time it is or what time I started or what time I'm supposed to start. But I guess like I want to leave you with, hey, be proud of who you are. If some shit happened to you, like, yeah, that sucks. And like, we're all together and we got to take care of each other. And like, shit happens to all of us. Like, bad shit happens to good people, but it doesn't have to turn you into a bad person. Like, we can support each other. We can be like, hey, are you good today? Like, not, how are you? Good. How are you? Good. No, how are you? Really? I'm actually like really fucking struggling today. I feel like I'm gonna start crying. I don't know. I have this pain in my chest. I'm really struggling. Do you have space to help me? I wanna see more of those honest conversations and more of those like taking each other's hands and being like, I'm not letting go until you feel okay. And like, I will not leave you here in this space. Like, we will not exist here without each other. And I just want to remind us all that we are power in numbers, y'all. We can truly change the world. We don't have to be run by what works all the time. We can be what works all the time by honoring ourselves and by honoring each other. Because like I said earlier, in you is a reflection of me. We're just spirits. We truly are. We're spirits, just, you know, encompassed by bones and blood and skin and muscles. But on the inside, we're all the same. We really are. And, you know, we came here on alone. We're going to leave alone. I don't know where we go next, but I just know that when we go, we don't come back. So, you know, let's just live here. And like, God, yeah. I'm really into like self-love and self-help. I love reading books about self-help books. 7 Spiritual Laws of Success. That shit changed my life. Untethered Soul, A New Earth, Power of Now, You Are a Badass, like these beautiful books. I've just started reading Raise Your Vibrations by Lala Delia. She's freaking amazing. I'm like, yo, life is so much bigger than just like needing to be accepted by everybody else. And I think sometimes that like that fear that people are going to tell us that we're a liar, like, you know, this happened to me, you're a liar. That's not true. That victim shaming, like, you know, we were dealing with some stuff here in the States and this page came up on Instagram that was like victim shaming and calling people out. And it's like, bro, this is why, like, and if we think about it, like, it's so fear-based. Like, human beings are so fear-based. Like, we exist in so much fear. And yeah, I just want to fight fear with all of you. Like, I want to stand next to you and change the world. I don't want to stand in front of you. I don't want to stand behind you. I don't want to stand on top of you or below you. I just want to stand next to you and change the world with you. So thank you so much. If anyone has questions too, I know we've kind of been on here for a little bit. I'm gonna write that down.
Right. Well, I just want to say, like, thank you so much for your very, very, very reasonable message. I truly appreciate it. And it was like so great to hear your recommendations and how much love you want to pour out. And I thank you so much because I feel like that's totally needed. Please come to Toronto and stay.
Yes. My partner is ready to move to Canada. We both are like obsessed with Canada, and we just like, we always meet Canadians and we're like, yo, we have this connection with Canada. So we're looking, we want to move, and we're like, is Canada the next place we go? Like, oh, we're ready, y'all. We love you.
Don't go to Japan, come to Toronto.
Yes, I want to so bad.
Oh my God. Yes, I have a question. Somebody asked that question in the chat. And I was gonna ask that too. So grooming is a new term, I guess everyone's quote unquote learning, or people who haven't really been in this position. And so somebody asked, would you be able to please identify some examples of what grooming can look or feel like in the dance industry, so dancers can tell and also know who's abusing their powers, or like just kind of give like definition of grooming and like just yeah.
Yeah, so when I think of the word grooming, I think immediately of manipulation. That's like the word that comes to mind. It's a gaining of trust so that they can abuse. It's manipulation, it's threat, and it's usually probably honestly people that we trust. Grooming can look like over attention, like you're in class and this teacher's teaching and he's I'm not going to say he, they, this person is like, because it's not just men, and it's not just men to women, it's not just women to men, it's not just it, like it's all different. People doesn't matter, right? Your gender has nothing to do with this. Like this is your soul speaking. Over attention, like constantly like talking to this person or touching this person, or like, you know, I had a friend tell me, you know, this one teacher in particular would come up behind her and like whisper in her ear when she was taking class. And that's the beginning of grooming. Granted, I just want to disclaim, I'm not a therapist. I'm not a professional in any sort of way in that space. This is just research I've done and research and things that I've been educated with YPAD and Leslie Scott. I owe a lot of love to them. My best friend is a therapist, Dr. Christina Donaldson. So this is kind of some stuff they've shared with me as well. Verbal seduction, right? The whispering in the ear. Social media. If you're above the age of 18, it's actually technically not legal to be messaging children underage, people underage. Like that's just incorrect. And I would just, as a teacher, I always really try to stay away from that. Kids will message me a lot and I'll just be like, heart, oh yeah, and just like cut the conversation real quick. And it's like, I want to do a private with you. It's like, okay, have your mom email me or your dad or your guardian and we'll have a conversation. I always in conversation with kids because I don't even want to touch that very, very thin line. Also, like when working with people, especially underage, it's illegal for you to be in a space by yourselves. Like you shouldn't be going into a studio with someone with the windows closed. Like even I heard a lot of people say like, well, what if there's cameras? I've heard stories and studied stories of people that abuse, of them like turning their backs to the camera, knowing how to move their back and like still physically touching children and abusing them in the studio with cameras on them. So I think it's really important to like open the space. If a choreographer asks you to come to their house, I don't care how old you are. I don't think age is a number, a matter. I don't think it matters at all. If someone's asking you to come to their house, I just would always say no. Even going into the studio, I would just personally, if I don't know you, I don't want to be with you by myself. I just don't. I can feel like I would kick someone's ass. Like if you came at me, I feel like I would kick your ass. But also, I just don't even want to put myself in that situation. I want to protect myself always and feel safe, truly. So I would never go to a space by myself with someone. Social media is a really easy place to groom. Physical isolation, like I said, getting you by yourself, one-on-one. Hey, can you come over? I just really, you know, I need to go home and change. Do you want to just come with me? No, I'll just meet you at the location. That's cool. Charm is a great way to groom people, being very charming. A lot of the people that I've been studying here, a lot of them are very charming, very kind. Hell, I've hung out with some of them. I'm like, damn, you're so nice. Very charming. Red flag. Not always. Like, I like to think that I'm charming, but I'm also like respectful of myself and I'm respectful of you and I'm educated and very self-aware and conscious and in therapy. And I think sometimes hurt people don't realize that they hurt, so they're hurt, so they continue to hurt other people. So just being
listening to your gut, like getting more in touch with your intuition. And like, if that is screaming at you and it's like, I don't feel good here, something feels wrong, just trust it. And you're not being too much. You're never being too much. Better, honestly, safe than sorry, or safe than like in an uncomfortable position where you're like, oh shit, I'm in a bad space right now. Just trust your gut always. Gift giving, like buying lots of gifts, giving them lots of gifts, charm gifts, normalizing things like, you know, inappropriate touching, like, oh, that's just normal. Like, no, bitch, that's not normal. Gaslighting, huge. Gaslighting, you know, like saying like, it's like, you say something to me, I kind of edit the story a little bit, make it feel like it's your fault. It's not my fault, it's your fault. Oh, you're feeling this way. Gaslighting. Being very secretive. Don't tell your mom that I'm texting you, or don't tell anyone that I'm texting you. Like, oh, can you please erase our texts when we're done talking? One situation with one of my kids, this person actually grabbed my kid's phone, erased all of the messages after he abused her. So, and also threats. If you tell anyone, I'm going to ruin your career. If you tell anyone, I'm going to exploit you on the internet. If you tell anyone, like, I'm going to do this to your career. I think that's why it's been so difficult in dance, because there's been so much of that. Like, this is a really famous choreographer. If I come out, then I'm going to be the girl that comes out. No, like, I just want you to know that, like, that person did something that is not okay. Like, you will not, your career will not be ruined because what they did is not okay. And I promise 9 times out of 10, probably 10 out of 10, it wasn't just one person. Like, this is something that's happening. They're doing it to multiple people in multiple places. And yeah, that's kind of what grooming looks like to me.
Well, everything you said, especially the whole like, it's not like you're probably not the only one in social media, especially when choreographers ask people in their social media inboxes to do pieces and such, and it's like, you know, you shouldn't be doing it, but then you're like, this is a choreographer I wanted to work with, and you're probably just like, oh my god, but then in their head they're probably just like thinking like, oh man, like I can't wait to like talk to this girl or whatever. But also for people in Toronto, grooming also looks like when you talk to somebody at 2 until 2 a.m. in a studio when you know you shouldn't be in there with them, or having like underage people on your pieces, but chilling with them after rehearsals. That thing is not okay. And also, like, no, there's just so many things that we all know it, and the fact that we all know it is the big issue. But yeah, thank you so much for that. Another question will be, willful ignorance is the state of being ignorant and choosing to stay ignorant when presented with facts that disapproves your opinion. What do you think causes willful ignorance, and how do you think people can combat willful ignorance or like self-deception?
I think ignorance feels like safety to a lot of people. Like, if I don't know, then it doesn't hurt me. And if I don't like pay attention to it and I can just pretend, maybe it's how our brains protect our bodies and ourselves. Like, if I don't know, then it's not going to hurt me, but it is hurting you, because it's hurting our collective. So to be willfully ignorant is to be willfully dangerous, willfully disrespectful. It's and I truly think, again, these are just my opinions, and I'm not a therapist, I'm not a doctor, I'm just passionate, but to me, I think it really is just so fear-based, because this is such an industry where it's like, well, if you don't do it, I'm going to hire someone else. And that person will take that job potentially, even knowing the dangers of the situation, because that's kind of the narrative sometimes. I think we feel like, you know, well, and also like, well, it won't happen to me. That would never happen to me. I said that I got roofied one time in New York. I was like, I'll never get roofied. That would never happen to me. The night I said that, I got roofied. It was like the weirdest thing. I was like, oh, that would never happen. Definitely. Like, shit happens. And if we're like ignorant and we're choosing to be ignorant, like uninformed and uneducated, I don't know. I just don't know the benefit to that other than, I guess, protecting ourselves and keeping that kind of individualistic mindset where like, I have to get ahead and that's all that matters. And everything beyond my hands here doesn't really matter because I just have to get ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially when like supporting like political aspects that like, you know, affect you too. But yeah, thank you. Does anybody here have a question they would like to ask Kat? Anything that, you know, you want to comment, suggest, anything? Or has she silenced you all?
Yeah, if anyone has questions. Also, like, I know there's some shit going down in Toronto, and I know the studio in particular, I have to say, like, I reached out to them personally and didn't hear anything back. I always believe, like, you know, let's try to have conversation before I start, like, blasting your ass on the internet. And, you know, I was thinking, I was like, what would I do if I was in, like, what would I do? And it's like, you know, there was a situation here in the States, a dancer was in a Broadway show and he was like abusing dancers and they all stood outside the show and like protested for like days and days and days. And the media came and, you know, it got so much knowledge and so much attention. I think it really helped the case build and helped them get justice. I'm not telling you to like go outside and protest, but maybe, I don't know, maybe the time is now to be like, we will not stand for this. Because my question is continuously like, if we know that this is happening in our industry, why do we keep showing up to these spaces? I mean, there's a studio here in New York where he is a known predator, like a known predator. People are like, oh yeah, he's a predator. Like, yeah, he like gets with the kids. He has a studio in New York. Like, why are we still allowing his business to run? And I don't want to cancel him and be like, you know, and just like ruin, like, it's not about that. It's like, I want to help him heal and I want to remove this broken space because it's hurting more people. Like, your broken space is breaking more people. Let's cancel you for a second. Let's get you some help. Let's get all the victims and survivors some help, and let's recreate. Like, take a break, go figure your shit out because you need some serious help. But I always get questioned because, you know, I have a lot of friends that teach there. I'm like, why the fuck do you teach there knowing this guy does that? But it's the same question people ask me when I taught at the other studio. And, you know, my whole thing was I want to get in there, like, and help spread education, you know? So I don't know, but I think when people are just showing up to take class, like, we don't, when we're taking class, we don't necessarily get to speak up and out. Like, if you're able to teach classes at these spaces and like speak about it openly, I don't know, it's a dangerous space. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah, no, exactly. And just like, also it goes the same thing about willful ignorance is like, it's also supporting teachers that support like other idealistic like ideologies that like don't really like necessarily should promote positive influence. Like, if they for instance are a Trump supporter or something like that in that sense, you know. So definitely those are big issues. But yeah, like, thank you so much literally for everything, and you know, for being a part of this and all that you do. And thank you so much. Is there social media, you want to say out your social media, everything?
Yeah, it's Kat. How do I spell my last name? Cogliandro.
I'll definitely be posting it all. Like, it'll also be posted in the guest house IG and everything over the next few days for part 1 and part 2. You'll have everyone's like say and such. But yeah, thank you so much. Are there any last minute words or anything before you go?
I think there's one more question if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Or was that one answered already? For businesses like a studio who are accused of mishandling an assault situation, how do we want them to respond to fix or better their situation? Like someone said earlier, accountability. Like, I read the release. Can I say names?
Yeah.
I'm gonna be gentle on that. I read a release that a studio released, and it was like, these accusations are not true, like da-da-da-da. My first question was like, how do you know that though? Yeah. Like, how dare you actually say out loud, like, these are not, how do you know that? Like, I was like, how fucking dare you say that? Like, that's just bad business. I know here, like, I'll say, like, when we get reports like that, we have to be very gentle because it's like, okay, we're a business, you know, there's a lot of legalities that go into it. Obviously, believe the victim first. Just believe the victim. Always believe the victim. There is a small amount of times that the victim is lying, like this many times, right? This many times, it's the truth. So like, as a business, that's just bad business. Like, what are you promoting to the other people? Like, obviously, we're hearing this story going around. So I know when we had a situation, we take a second, or I'm not gonna say we, because I don't do that work anymore, but with them, but I know they take a second, analyze the situation. Okay, but you know what, despite anything, our students feel unsafe, and we're gonna listen to that. And I think that's really commendable. It's hard because it's like, you know, it is a business and there are legalities involved, and you can be sued for defamation, and you really can be. And if you don't have proof, you can definitely be sued for defamation. So I know it is hard for businesses, like, you know, like where it's like, we believe you and we want to make you feel safe, but also like, we have to see all of the sides and listen and understand. But like, you know, I feel like most of the times they handle it pretty well. Sometimes they don't. And like, that's the work that we're trying to do now. Like, just bringing more awareness, like talking more about it. You know, this person is getting a lot of complaints. Oh, I've heard that. Well, we need to do something about that. Either you need to release them. You can't make a statement that you stand against this and let this person continue to teach because they bring your studio money. And I have this conversation with all the studios that I work for. I personally, as a faculty member, like, I feel bad for I don't feel bad actually at all. But like, I am like always in inbox. Like, yo, what are we doing about this person? They're still working here. What are we doing? What are we doing? What are we doing? Just constant. Yeah.
No, that's good. Especially, you made a big fact that if you're a faculty member of a studio, which, like, I'm so glad that there were faculty members of the studio you mentioned that like did something about it. If you're a member of a faculty, if you're a faculty member of a studio, you should definitely like work your way, because it depends. It's also your workspace and where you work, right? So yeah, definitely. Oh my God. So.
You might have to blank that name out just to be safe, but that I dropped.
Oh yeah, no problem.
But
to be honest, everybody else knows who you're talking about, so we're good. Yeah, Noah would be the last person to ask you a question. So Noah, you can go ahead.
Hi.
Hello.
I was just want an opinion on this, right? Because like our community right now is kind of like, I want to say new to this, because there's stuff I think that I don't know, right? But all of a sudden, there was sexual assault cases, right, in Toronto that happened, you know, very abruptly and quickly, right? And we're trying to figure out, right now, is like everyone is like how we handle this, right? And right now, the dilemma is, right, that a lot of the older people in our community, right, people who we look up to because of dance, right, they're not here. They're not in this conversation. They're not in a Zoom call. They're not even reposting some of these stuff. They're not, you know, showing up, you know, needless to say. And it's kind of weird because, you know, we look up to these people, right? But when, you know, shit hits the fan, things turn south, and there's a real problem, right, outside of dance, but still kind of relating because it happened in a dance environment. Where do we go, right? Like, what the fuck do we do? You know, and it's like, who do we look to? Like ourselves now, and it's hard because it's really all the older people, and it's just us, the younger generation, you know, 25 in the 20s, trying to do this, right? It's fucking crazy. Like, how do we do this?
It's up to us. We are the next generation of greatness. We are putting our feet down and saying, no longer will we stand for this. I think about this a lot. Like, I'm never going to change the people ahead of me. And I ask myself the same questions. I'm like, y'all are quick to jump on a live feed that's like gossiping about sexual assault, but when the time comes up to stand up for it and post about it and be in these meetings and be in these spaces, I don't see y'all. Why? Fear. fear of losing relevance, fear of no longer being legendary, getting older and being forgotten about, and not leaving space for the next generation to come up. I feel like a lot of, and this is very personal, but like, I feel like a lot of the older generation of choreographers, at least where I am, like, they're holding on so tight, they don't want to let go. So standing up for something like sexual assault in dance, I mean, them using their voices about something so loud and being so actually like raw and honest and concrete about it, like, and genuine and authentic, that's scary for them, because that means people might not like them, and people might not show up to their classes anymore, and people might not hire them for jobs, and, you know, they might be too mouthy. And like you said, like, who do we look to? I mean, we're talking about this with the police right now. Like, who do I look to help me? Not them, us, our community. Build your community, whether it starts with 3 to 10 to building to 15 to 16. Educate your community. Start with education. Through education comes prevention. That is like the YPAD motto. Education creates prevention. Let's educate each other. Start with your tiny group and let it build and build. And no longer will that generation, you know what, if they don't want to support it, they're going to be in the spotlight soon for not standing on the right side of history. Mm-hmm. And then, you know what, then they're old and they're gone, and it's our turn now. And what we're standing for, what our generation stands for, we do not stand for it any longer. And I think instead of focusing on who's not here, let's focus on who is here, and let's work from that place.
Yes. Yes.
I hope that helps. I know it's frustrating. It's like, what the fuck is going on? But it's up to us. Let's hold that power. It's our power. Let's take it. Let's run with it. Let's drive the car and get the hell out of here. And make a better world for the generation below us. Let's help create a better world for the kids. I always say, like, well, the work we do, it's for the kids, man. It's got to be for the kids.
Damn, yo.
Older people.
I have no more, but like, I've been poor. Like, damn.
Cheers. I'll be my seltzer.
Yeah.
Cheers to you.
I'm eating myself now.
Oh my God. No, great. Great question, Noah. Oh my God. I can't believe you said that. But anyways, no, for sure, no. And also Ben. Anyways, no, it's for real. It's just, and I want to add to Noah's thing. It's just more like, I understand the OG don't hold the power of like a lot of things, but especially when they expect us, aka like my generation, Noah's generation, to kind of like respect them for the work that they've done, and kind of like, you know, like respect that boundary. Then it's like, when we are asking for the help, especially knowing that somebody that we respected and asked for that respect and got expectations from us, and they're doing this to damage our community, the community that we're supposed to go into as the next generation, then it's like, where are you? Why aren't you doing stuff? And I understand people are doing more work at the background, which is cool. But at the same time, though, we need just as much help in the front. And I think that's why GUESThouse was definitely created to do that. And it just sucks that, like, and I'm not saying GUESThouse is like, you know, out of the fluke or whatever. I'm glad GUESThouse came. I'm glad GUESThouse is here to do that. And if anyone here in this room needs help with anything, GUESThouse 100% is here. You're a guest to our house, 100%. It's just the fact that, and I personally want to say that, it's like, it kind of was like pushed on us to be like, let's do something, and it's like, be the change you want to be. But it's like, it just kind of came out of the blue, and it's just like, oh my God, you know, I understand like the time for it's us now, but it's like when things like start to like open up more after like COVID and such, like, do we still respect the same people that like didn't respect us now, or like do we just say, you know, like, I don't know. But
well, it's like, I grew up with the like, respect your elders. No, respect each other. Like, I don't care if you're older than me. I don't care if you've danced for Janet for 25 years. I don't give a fuck. We're still the same. We're existing on planet Earth at the same time. Look, I honor you for the work that you've done. I honor you for what you've taught me and passed down to me. Now let me do my work, and you honor me too. Let's respect each other. This whole like, well, I have to respect you because you're so-and-so, and no, I don't. You're a shitty person. I don't have to respect you for anything.
That part, yep.
Like, I don't. And I think so much of our industry is so built in that. Like, I'm so afraid to like speak up to this choreographer because they're so famous and they're so No, like, they're a person. They shit and piss just like you do. Like, they're scared just like you are. They eat just like you do. Like, We're all the same. Your jobs and your biography and your resume does not make you a better person than me, and does not mean that I have to respect you when you're doing things that are like disrespectful. Like, let's take the power. Let's honor that power. I see you. I see you. Thank you for what you've taught me. Now, because of what you taught me, one of my mentors, Sheila Barker, shout out to her, one of the best people that's ever taught me. She was like, my job as a teacher is to help you fly. That's my job. I want to help you fly, baby. I'm going to teach you. You take it, you do whatever the hell you want, and you fly. That's what makes me happy. And I've always thought about that. Like, yeah, I don't know. I feel like so many of these people kind of just like still look down on the younger generation. They're like, oh, the younger generation and da da da. Like, I see you on TikTok.
Yeah.
I see you on TikTok. Like, what? What do you mean? Like,
It's so true.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Also, if you're on TikTok, like, no, that's the problem.
no, like, no. Like,
Okay, like, it's to each your own opinions and such, but my opinion is TikTok is no. But regardless, though, I just want to say, like, thank you, Noah, for opening up this conversation. Thank you for Kat for, like, you know, instilling such great educational purpose for it. It is getting really late, so we do have to close this off. But, you know, my DMs are open to have a conversation with anyone, you know, and like Kat is too. I'm sure everyone else is here. Everyone here has a supportive guest house, regardless of what you do, if you want to initiate something or not. But I just want to say, like, thank you so much for your very, very commendable speech. And I just absolutely lovely. Thank you so much.
thank you so much for having me. I send all of you love and light and passion and hope, and hope that you know that you are important, you are valuable, you are worthy, you are enough, and you deserve love and you deserve peace. And don't let anyone take that from you. You've got that. So, mwah. Run forward, go forth and conquer. We are the change. We are the change. Let's do it together. Hold hands. I love you. Mwah. Thank you all so much.
For closing comments, I just want to say thank you guys so much for being here, and please stay till the end, so hopefully we can get this through. I just want to say thank you so much to all the speakers for being here, for their time and their energy, and I'm wishing you, Kat, and everyone else, their families, and everyone else here well. I thank you guys so much. Guest House will have a resource document attached to our bio soon. It's a link tree. You can see resources starting from like Black Lives Matter resources, Black-owned businesses here in Toronto and the US, and just even like stuff and resources that we've mentioned all here throughout our part 1s and part 2s will be updated throughout the week. And so look up for that. All the resources have been divided by Canadian resources and US resources, so everybody can use that. And we're going to continue to keep updating that for our community. I just wanted to shout out some guest house members and inspiring women behind all of this. First off, I just want to say thank you to Mama Kin. Kin literally made this whole thing happen, and I just really want to say thank you so very much, Kin, for doing this and for all your hard work, for what you've done for the community. People don't know the amount of work she did, but guys, the reason why one of the studios anyways, but I just want to say thank you, kids, so much. I just want to say thank you to Kat Castro, who has been helping me be my emotional support behind here, and me always calling her up at 3 a.m., you know, but I appreciate her. I want to say thank you to Laksa Fatmanada. I don't know if she's here, but I just want to say thank you so much to her. Ian Simon, Hansi Guthrie, Matthew Morales, JC Pierce, Trisha, and Tommy Wa. These are just some members of the guest house, and these are people that have helped guest house be what guest house is. I'm not just the only face. I am just the person that speaks with the loudest voice on guest house. Yeah, and yeah, for real. I just want to say, like, COVID has hit many industries as of lately, and one in particular is the entertainment industry. And I want to make an announcement just to support one of our own female ran studios here in the GTA in Toronto. It's called Vibe Dance Company, which is located in Markham. They're raising money to keep their studio here and also release more projects and such. And you can find out more on their donation and their launch on their GoFundMe and everything on their IG at Vibe Dance. And we'll also be posting that on our stories tonight. We ask that you do support and donate this female ran studio here in Markham. And if you guys are looking for a female ran studio, that is there in Markham for you. Also, another thing, Julia Tripoli will be launching an initiative called The Call-In. She spoke about it last night. This will be released on her Instagram, I believe at 1 p.m. I could be completely wrong, but do check that out. Please check out Julia at Julia Tripoli and see what she's doing and what work the remarkable work she's doing for us Canadians here. I also want to support Unity Charity. Unity Charity tomorrow is hosting a Midsummer Flex, which is an online event hosted by the Unity Charity. It's a multi-event online event showcasing multi-online event showcasing art and talent from our Unity program youth and Unity artists. It's open to all ages, and please check out their page at Unity Charity for more info. With that being said, tonight I want everyone here to take the information you've learned tonight and make the best decision you can for yourself and your peers in your community. And in order to build a better community, it truly, truly, truly starts with you. Yes, no, and no one's mom. Our biggest flexes is our ego and knowledge. And I want you to promote that and promote the positivity and how you choose to use your ego and knowledge to the best of your ability to help support you, your peers, and just everyone else to give yourself peace. Use those to promote unity and positivity and watch you flourish. Create what you wish to see exist. Normalize changing your opinion after the fact and unlearning your already formed opinion. We are hope-driven people, and hope drives the longevity of our fight. Keep fighting and keep supporting yourself and your peers. Do not comply with willful ignorance just to save your own butts, because look what happened at that studio in Mississauga. Anyways, just want to say appreciate y'all so very much for all that you're doing. Appreciate y'all so very much. Just know that just because people aren't out there speaking out loud as I am on my own personal account doesn't mean they're not doing just the amount of work as they are behind the scenes. Trust me, there are a lot of people doing work right now, and just give them time to come with their plans, just like Julia has been keeping everything here. And for the call-in, please tune in for her call-in tomorrow. And yeah, just wanted to say I respect you all so much. Thank you so very much for being here. Again, thank you to Kin for making this possible, Ian for the graphics, and just my guest house team. Thank you so much, Kat, speakers, and everyone if they're still here.
Wait, shout out to Safa.
No, I'm okay.
Shout out to Safa, yo.
I'm okay.
Shout out to Safa. No.
Let's go, Safa.
Shouted out because this girl, like, stresses out, like, so much, but, like, I'll be like, Safa, you need sleep. Like, you need to eat. She's like, no, it's all good. Like, I gotta get this done. So she's working day and night, even worrying about school, like, worrying about,
Anyway,
she's the whole package. So
okay. Anyways,
she doesn't like credit.
We have to go. Anyways, good. Anyways, yeah, love you all. Appreciate y'all. My DMs are open. GUESThouse DMs are open. If you guys want to start an initiative and need help from GUESThouse and use our resources, please reach out to us. We're here to help you to create better change for our community, and hopefully integration can start. Wishing you all well. Good night. Bye, friends. Get home safe.